So I'm going to do an NBA tier list here for the greatest players of all time in the NBA. And I'm going to rank them into these tiers. Now, look, obviously, if you want to support my channel and save money on Gamer Subs, maybe get some delicious Gamer Subs. It's the cherry limesicle flavour. I think it's really delicious. I have a portion every single day. Or maybe I have the Guacamole Gamer Fart 9000, which is just strawberry and lime. It's just an edgy name that Russian Badger came up with. Use the code Thorin, THORIN at gamersubs.gg to save 10% and try some delicious flavours. Also, if you do that, be sure to add some free samples so you can try some of the other flavours, see which ones you like. I've been using Gamer Subs for years, like 4 years now. I think it's the shit. So, as usual, I always have to say this at the beginning. Oh, by the way, shout out to Tony Kalashnikov for subscribing. I always have to say at the beginning that I didn't make this tier list. So, where on this tier list it says top 60 best NBA players of all time, ranked tier list maker, and it was made this year, I didn't make it. So the downside is I wouldn't actually have had these 60. Like, there's certain people on here I think are egregious. Like, I'll give you an example. I actually think Reggie Miller's mega overrated, and there's certain modern people I might not even have on my list. So the idea they're on this list, but for example, when I had a quick look, it doesn't look like Kevin McHale's on this list, for example. Kevin McHale's a fantastic player, mate. Not just because he won with the Celtics. Like, I'll have to look here, but he is a better player than Reggie Miller over history, in my opinion. It's just a carry player. So we're going to get into all this now. Kokuna 1960 subscribe, shout out to him. And we're going to go through, and I'm going to do my version. So first things first, I'll tell you who each of the people are, because I'm going to have to literally figure it out from the photo answer, which isn't always that easy. And there was like one or two that I might even have to look up. So there's Kobe Bryant at the top here, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, formerly Lou Alcindor. There's Magic Johnson, a.k.a. Irvin Johnson, Stephon Curry. There's Bill Russell there, Tim Duncan, Shaq, Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain. This is when he played for the Sixers. That's Hakeem Olajuwon, Dr. J. Alias, a.k.a. Julius Erving, Jerry West, R.I.P., Kevin Durant, Oscar Robertson, Dirk Nowitzki, Dwayne Wade. It's a small picture, but that's Moses Malone when he's in the Sixers. I think that's who he's on there. That's Kevin Garnett, Giannis, since that's how he's supposed to say his name, whatever his name is, the guy who won the MVP a few times in the championship. Allen Iverson, the infamously overrated. Isaiah Thomas, Kawhi Leonard, Charles Barkley, Elgin Baylor, Steve Nash, another debatable one, David Robertson, Clyde Drexler, Karl Malone, John Stockton. You can't see his face there, but that's Rick Barry when he played for the Warriors. Chris Paul, Patrick Ewing. That's John Havlicek from the 60s and 70s Celtics. That's Scottie Pippen. Right, you can't see his face, but that's Bob Pettit when he played for the Hawks. He's one of the first MVPs of the NBA. James Harden, Jason Kidd. That's George Gervin, the Iceman. I can't really see, but I'm almost certain that must be, I'll double check that, but that must be Bob Cousy based on the way he stood with the ball there. Let's have a look. What number was Bob Cousy? Was Bob Cousy number 14? Doesn't it say the name? No? It's weird. I thought it would say the name of the... Oh, 14. There you go. Yeah, Bob Cousy's number 14. Can you see all that on the screen? Maybe I'll move that a tiny bit over. More like that, maybe. Yes, there we go. So, where was that? That was Bob Cousy. That's obviously Jokic, Nikola Jokic, or Jokic. I can't see because that photo is tiny. So when I looked up on the NBA 75th anniversary team, like which player looks tall like that is. So when I look on here, on this thing here, luckily it looks like he's one of the first people. Because as you go down here, all the 75 players, you'll come to this guy, Paul Arizin or Arizin. And if you just look at his shape, right, look, he's playing for the Warriors. That could be a Warriors outfit, I think. It's obviously a really old school play. He played in the 50s, because look at this really old outfit. And it's all in black and white. And if you look at these pictures here, this guy just looks like he is the dude. Right, you look on here. See what I mean? That looks like that could be him, right? Paul Horizon, whatever. Also, if I just really quickly look here, let's see. He was on all the NBA teams. He was an NBA champion. Let's see. All team for 2 times, scoring champion twice. Valuable player of this thing, whatever the Eastern Basketball Association is. Pretty good numbers. You have to realise that kind of points back then was crazy. Like, that would be one of the best players of all time. And a career average of 22.8. So I'm assuming that's polarising. That's going to be my guess, which is why it's mental that, like, Kevin McHale doesn't appear to be on this list. Like, I have no idea the rhyme or reason. I also, for some reason, couldn't find, like, an All-NBA top 75. Let's just go down here. I'm assuming Willis Reed must be on here. Come on. Right, Willis Reed. What does he look like? That doesn't fucking help anything, does it? Let's look. Willis. Oh, there we go. That's actually the photo there. Right, that is Willis Reed. Yes, that is Willis Reed of the Knicks. So he's there. That's Paul Pierce. That's Ray Allen. That is Reggie Miller. That's Russell Westbrook. That's Gary Payton. Right, someone for the Bullets. Let me think. Who could that be for the Bullets? It's not Wes Unseld because he's there. Who could that be for the Bullets? I'm trying to think. Famous players for the Bullets. Let's just very quickly look down here. And as soon as I see the name, I'll know it. Who could that be? Because he's going to be on this list. Who could that be who played for the Bullets? I'm trying to remember now. Earl Monroe? Could that be Earl Monroe? I think that might be Earl the Pearl. Let me have a look at that. We'll just very quickly look at that. That's a hard picture to tell from, so I think that's going to be him, though. Yeah, that's him. Come on, surely he's got the same moustache. Yeah, that's got to be him, surely. Look at that. That's got to be that dude there. So I think that's Earl the Pearl Monroe. One of the, legendary, wasn't he a defensive player? That is Clyde Frazier, the Knicks commentator and legendary player. Dominique Wilkins. That's what it's so bizarre. This list has so many old school names. It misses some of the ones sort of in the 80s. Dominique Wilkins was phenomenal. Wes Unseld, obviously mega. Carmelo Anthony, one of our favourites. Dwight Howard. Look, he did have all those defensive stats. Buffalo. Who the fuck? Who could have played for the Buffalo? Also has an interesting type of... Let me think. See, Kevin McHale isn't on here. George Mikan isn't on here. That could be Bob McAdoo. There we go. The guy who went to the Lakers and won a championship with them, but he was a big scorer. Yeah, it is. Let me have a look. Yes, that's Bob McAdoo. There we go. That is T-Mac, a.k.a. Tracy McGrady. Let me see. People are saying that's Elvin Hayes. Is that Elvin Hayes? Let's have a look. Could be. Oh, you're right. Yes, that's Elvin Hayes. Right. So that is not actually Earl Monroe. That's Elvin Hayes. Okay. Let me have a look here. Where was I? That's obviously Anthony Davis. That's Bill Walton. And then I'm pretty sure that's Tiny Nate Archibald. Let me have a look at that second. It must be. Let's look at this. It looks like him. Let's have a look for Nate Archibald. Lol, there's actually a fucking character. Are you having a laugh? Oh, that is him. There we go. Nate Archibald, when he's with the Kansas City Kings, apparently. People like that I'm going to have to Google. Now, here's the difference. I'll say at the beginning of my list, typically, I don't do this. If you ask me who my top 10 NBA players of all time, I'll tell you people I saw. So I only started watching mainly from the 80s onwards. I've seen a lot of basketball from the 80s. I've seen loads from the 90s. I've seen loads from the 2000s, loads from the 2010s, quite a bit from the 2020s. So I would say I don't usually go into sort of the Kareem era because I only saw him play mainly in the 80s. I don't do Wilt Chamberlain and L.J. and Oscar Robertson and Jerry West and all those great players because I didn't watch them play. So I think it's stupid to do one like that if you don't say outright, I didn't really watch them play, so I'm going off stats and just looking on Basketball Reference like every player. So I normally wouldn't do a list like this. One day I'll do a different list that's just my top 10, but just players I saw. But for this one, I'm going to go with the players they have. And I'm obviously going to start with the ones I know. And then I'm going to see where I get to. So I noticed on this one, they've just done S, A, B, C, and D, which I like. I don't like where it's just one GOAT and then everyone else is not a GOAT. By the way, here's a little rant. I'll probably do a video on this, probably on a side channel. I actually think whether it's esports or American sports or just general sports in general, team sports especially. In fact, especially team sports, where it's very debatable who the GOAT is because it depends what team they're on and what the general manager's like and how it goes and what injuries happen and all that jazz. Is, you know that thing that particularly you might have seen Jerry Rice, perhaps the GOAT of the NFL, the best wide receiver ever probably. You've seen how insane he is with media. He actually has an Instagram account he upgrades all the time. And his thing is he calls all the other great players. If he goes and meets Deion Sanders or Ray Lewis or Emmitt Smith, he calls everyone GOATs. And he has like an energy drink of his own. I think it's like GOAT Fuel or something. And his whole thing is he just calls everyone really great a GOAT, right? Now, people might think, you're going too far with great. But since GOAT just means greatest of all time, I actually think it's more applicable to call everyone who's a true GOAT contender the GOAT, and just call them a GOAT and say, like, GOAT, in the same ways you can have gods, a pantheon of gods. You don't have to have a monotheistic one God only and no other gods before me. So I actually think it's way more interesting to have like 4 to 5 or maybe 10 people who are the GOATs, depending on what sport we're talking about. Like in NFL, that would make a lot of sense for the positions, in basketballs and all the different positions. I think that's actually a way cooler discussion than who is the GOAT. Because who is the GOAT tends to just devolve into actually people explaining why the person they don't think is the GOAT is shit or a fraud, not celebrating how great they are. Whereas I actually think if you're doing GOATs, everyone in this S tier is probably a GOAT. So I actually think either by position or in general, it's way cooler to acknowledge that like a bunch of these guys are GOATs rather than just like, it's only this one guy and only him. All right, in this house, we believe that only Michael Jordan can be the GOAT. So I think it's better to do it that way. So, wait a minute. Who did someone say is George Mikan? Who is George Mikan? Wait there a second. Which one did I say? Which one was it? Oh, everyone's saying George Mikan was the guy who's really tall, right? That would make sense. And George Mikan was the guy, people don't know, who won like 5 chips or whatever with the Minneapolis Lakers before they were the LA Lakers. That's actually why it's bullshit that the Lakers organization, which is the LA one bought by the Boss family, count all those championships. You don't have as many championships as that. The Boston Celtics have all their championships in Boston. The Lakers do not. That is nonsense. Okay, fair enough. That's actually George Mikan. That's a rare time where actually checking on this fucking Twitch chat helped me. Other than that, it's fucked me a lot of times. So I'm now going to go back, unfortunately, to not reading this chat. But okay, that's all good. So I'm going to start with in general in order, just so we can sort through. So I'm going to say my GOAT of basketball is Michael Jordan. Here's what's funny. Even though they had very similar games, Kobe and Jordan, I actually much preferred watching Kobe play because even though he was doing similar moves, I actually thought his frame was smaller and it was more stylish how he did it. And I thought the defense he played against was insane when he played against those zone defenses. I wasn't actually the biggest Michael Jordan fan. What's funny is when I used to watch the Bulls, I used to really love to watch Scottie Pippen because he had the all-around game and the defensive game. And then I was also a big fan of when they had Dennis Rodman of him. But I did love, look, I appreciate Michael Jordan. I am going to put him as my GOAT. He is the best player I've ever seen play, I think, any sport. It's just unfucking believable. It's one of the only players I did feel like, and I was there while it was happening, he would just never lose. It just felt like that's why I always say he actually ruined not only basketball, but all team sports and even esports. Because he made people think that the greatest player ever never goes to the 7th game, never loses in the finals, wins every MVP, wins every scoring title. Even all the fans, by consensus, say you're the best. They made them have all these... It reminds me of the Bonjour discussion in StarCraft, where they already had selected the criteria for other players, and then they wouldn't let anyone else meet it because no one could meet all the criteria at once. Even though I've always pointed out, no Bonjour ever met all the criteria, including Flash. Although maybe at the end Flash did. Although even then they go, you have to have no rivals. And he had some fucking hella rivals like Bisou and J-Dong, didn't he? So I'm going to say Michael Jordan is my best player of all time. The immediate-esque here. Look, you can make a debate between him and Kobe, but the difference is, with Kobe, it's more angles of like he's underrated in how he carried in the first three-peat. Maybe he played harder defenses. He had worse body, and so he got similar results. The difference is Michael Jordan had everything. He had the insane vertical. He had impossible athleticism. He had some of the best in-game dunks ever. He was a monster in dunk contests. There's actually some amazing dunk footage that's really rare. Not the ones from the 80s when he's playing the All-Star game. It's the ones where he's playing in like the early 90s before his first retirement. There are some unbelievable dunks that are just from him in gyms doing like camps and like exhibition games of some fucking insane shit. There's even that famous one where he came back for like Scottie Pippen's summer invitational or whatever, the midsummer madness type thing or whatever, where they were having like an all-star game. Scottie Pippen was considered like a top 4 player in the NBA at the time. Michael Jordan was off playing baseball and he still cooked him. And absolutely cooked Scottie Pippen. And if you don't know, we're going to show you later. Scottie Pippen team's underrated. So actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. Maybe we'll look at each of these players as we talk about it, just to quickly show people who are the noobs. So Michael Jordan has, and also, not only did he have the eye test, which is insane, he also has one of the craziest fucking references of all time. There's actually any way to go into like a dark mode for this? I don't think there is, unfortunately, sadly. And so you look, forget all, by the way, I don't give a fuck about All-Star, All-Star. Miss me with that, LeBron fans. 10-time scoring champion. That's insane. If people don't know, before Michael Jordan, I think there was a stat that said the scoring champion never won the NBA championship that season. He just did it every time. It was insane. Like, even my boy Kobe used to sometimes take less shots and sometimes actually just like save himself in games and not do fourth quarters. Actually, Michael Jordan was like, I'm going to win the scoring title, score the most, score the majority of my points, and win, and get the MVP, and get the title. He just had the ultimate alpha mentality. 3-time steals champion, which is mad underrated. I actually think technically, in terms of their overall career, Scottie Pippen was the better defender, because I think Michael Jordan, a bit like Kobe, was more of like the on-ball guy sometimes when he felt like it or late in games. Scottie Pippen did the majority of the defensive work. But I do think when he chose to lock in, like Kobe, he could be the best defender in the league. He was unbelievable. Obviously, 6-time champion. Yes, you have to have the right team and coach and all that. But he is he's probably any player with 4 or more championships, he is the most responsible for winning those championships. There you go. How about that? He is a 9-time all-defensive player. He was a very, very good defensive player. Only people like Kobe can even come close in that respect. And he's winning his defensive first team placings while winning the scoring championship and sometimes also winning the NBA championship and sometimes also the MVP, because did you know he was a 5-time MVP? Oh, and also, you can argue one of those he maybe shouldn't have won, because back in the day, you did have to have team success, but they gave him an MVP before he had team success instead of Charles Barkley, who got more first place points because too many people voted Magic Johnson second on their ballots, and it meant by points Michael Jordan won that one. But I'll tell you what, it evened out, because on the other end, if he nicked that one, and look, they didn't used to give him the NBA just based on play. That's why Kobe couldn't win in 2006 or 2007. But on the other end, he also got one nicked from him, to be fair. Like, you could argue maybe he should have got it over Karl Malone. I think it was just the season where Karl Malone maybe got, like, I don't know, number 1 seed or something, or he just played so well, voter fatigue meant people wanted to give it to someone other than Michael Jordan. So I think 5 is very fair. Obviously, famously, Kareem has 6. He could have won 6 or more himself. By the way, if you just make him walk in day one into a team that's super stacked, he could have 10 MVPs. He was fucking unbelievable. With that said, we'll get to this on the Kobe one. I've always thought, actually, his career trajectory is perfect if you want a GOAT player. You start off on a shitter team where you can do whatever you want and from day one start and bang out in points. Then you can play super selfish and develop your complete game, so you get so many fans and everyone loves you. Then you get the good coach and the team players and you start to win. You go to your absolute peak. By the way, he obviously could have won more than 6 NBA championships. He just kept playing his entire career and never had any time off. Maybe he could have won 10 championships himself. If he had the team, this guy probably could have won more than 10. He could have the most championships ever. He also was the finals MVP every single time. The only one that's debatable for my money is the 1996 finals. I actually think if you look how people typically decide the MVP, like how much of an impact you had on the game and outplay your opposite role, you could actually make a very strong case that the Bulls might have actually lost that NBA finals in 7 games or even 6 if Dennis Rodman didn't go insane. There's 2 games in that series where he has, for real, like 10 plus offensive rebounds, which is fucking bonkers. And also, he was doing shit like getting like fucking people thrown out the team on the Sonic side. But even so, it probably was still Michael Jordan for how he had impact in the games they won. Yeah, just one of the best players to ever play basketball ever. Like, the key thing with Michael Jordan is he never had a bad season. I mean, the accolades are unbelievable, but you also just look at the points. The field goal percentage was insane. Now, true, he could play against a lot of isolated people because they had the illegal defense back then. So I do think he benefited from that. It was a half-court game. He benefited from that too. It wasn't necessarily... And you didn't have to shoot 3-pointers. That didn't matter. The only time he shot 3-pointers and was good was when they made the line shorter and they had the expansion teams. That's not really relevant. The most maligned part of Michael Jordan's game easily is when he came back to the Bullets. If you don't know the first season, why do you think he's 13th in MVP voting there? MVP. Because actually, something like the first 20 games, they were in the hunt. They had a mega average roster. He came out of retirement. He was averaging, I think, like 50%. By the way, on his like patented fadeaway, like mid-range 2-point shot, he used to literally shoot something mental, like 90% on that, even in this era with the Wizards. And he was even decent in terms of defense. And look, yeah, he took less minutes. He had 3 minutes less there than his prime. But the next season, he was right back up again. So I actually think that's even underrated. Like, people don't know in 2002. That's like when we're only a year or two from like what you could call like the dead ball era, and the same was the dead pocket era in hockey, where when they made all those rule changes, that decade in theory was the hardest decade in NBA history to score in. And 38-year-old Michael Jordan still averaged 22, almost 23 points a game playing for a dog shit team. And by the way, these 2 seasons, he hit more game winners and buzzer beaters than your favourite player, unless your favourite player is Kobe Bryant, probably, or Larry Bird, hitting their entire career. I'm not exaggerating. Like, in these 2 seasons, he hit like 4 or 5 game winners or buzzer beaters and stuff. It's mental. Knicks, fucking Cavaliers again. You can go check it out. The guy was fucking bonkers. Even in this era, by the way, he is easily the best late 30s player until LeBron came along now. And LeBron has all the sports science, and he can GM. Oh, there's a million factors. So this is actually a mad underrated period. And obviously, Michael Jordan had these 4 seasons he didn't play. He just did not play these 4 seasons. He barely played this one, remember? Even though, by the way, there was still a team that was like a dark horse to win the championship. And he was still an MVP candidate there because, look, that's nonsense that he shouldn't even be on that season. But he was still really fucking good when he came back. This is his worst season, but he's still pretty good. So yeah, just one of the best players ever, right? Easy to put him in there. Then I am going to go Kobe Bryant second. Because I do think I only have to make the arguments and angles against Michael Jordan. Against anyone else, I'm just taking Kobe Bryant. Like, first of all, 5 rings isn't just 5 rings. Like, obviously, I'll take the first ring he won as a true sidekick. He was a sidekick in that one. I don't care that he took over game 4 and he was great in the West Conference. That's all great, but he was a sidekick. Shaq was fucking insanely dominant. That was the MVP season. 2001, 2002, I think they are literally 1A, 1B. So those are complete rings for him. As far as I'm concerned, he has 4 complete rings as a main carry. Well, spoiler, after Michael Jordan, that's it. There's Michael Jordan, like LeBron, who, by the way, had like really good Dwayne Wade, etc. That's some pretty good players. Kyrie was extremely good. They were like 1B options too. But they get their full rings. So I think that's how you go on that one. Kobe, I think, was an amazing shooter. By the way, that's actually an underrated aspect. When you go and you look at Kobe Bryant's shooting percentage, I make this point every time. He has the same career true shooting percentage as Tim Duncan, who played in the centre position or power forward. And he is considered a very efficient player who played smart and didn't take shit shots, but they have the same true shooting percentage. How is that? Because one, Kobe Bryant was a better 3-point shooter. And we now know the maths on that means you don't have to have that crazier percentage. Like, these percentages here are better than having 50% from 2. So it turns out that aspect helped his game. It might not look like that good, he's doing volume, but actually these percentages, anything over like 30 something or other, is actually pretty decent. And any of the seasons you get over 35, you're fucking cooking. Hence why Steph Curry's revolution eventually happened. Then also, you have, he's one of the best, probably the best difficult shot maker. I think him, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan would be in that category. Unfucking believable. And he was a really good defensive player. He's on all these defensive first teams, second teams, all these times. One thing people actually underrate about Kobe's career, that's why I'm going to show you this page here, is during the time everyone said he was carried by Shaq. Go look at this. 2002, by the way, in 2002, I actually think he was better than Shaq in their playoff run. He's the reason they beat the Spurs. He took care of a key game in the finals against the Nets. He was mega in that run. That was the one where Shaq was actually a bit sus against the Spurs that time out. So this season, the third ring, he was the 5th in MVP voting. By the way, in 2001, he's 9th in MVP voting. And in 2003, when he was mega and Shaq had the injury and he took over and scored more points, he was 3rd in MVP voting. It's just because the Lakers finished like something meant like 6th or 7th in the West. He couldn't win. Even in 2004, when he had the injury and missed a few games, he was still 5th in MVP voting. Look how many times he was top 5. He was top 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 times he was a top 5 voted player for MVP. So like a true candidate. Even if we do top 3, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times he was an MVP, like a finalist for the MVP. He only won it once. Now, I think that's bullshit. I actually think he should have won all 3 of these years. 2006, 2007, 2008. I even maybe could have argued, if you want to give one of these up, because, okay, I get that earlier on, people aren't going to give him X. He has Shaq, and the Lakers are either the best or then they're not good enough in 2003, etc. But if you want to give him another one, the other one would be 2010. Everyone loves it for LeBron, but Kobe's numbers are great, and that is the season he hit something mental, like 6 game winners. And if you ever go back at those games and look at those buzzer beaters and game winners, if the Lakers don't win those game winners, they not only got the best record in the West from that, which should already get you the MVP, right? The harder division, the harder conference rather. But if you don't hit those 6 game winners, I think they would have been something mental, like 6th or 7th in the West. So an absolutely fucking unbelievable career. I also think, by the way, he had an insane throwback in this career where he got 5th in MVP and NBA first team. The one where he got injured at the very end. He was playing some fucking... He was actually starting in this era, sadly he had a lot of wear and tear on his body, to play like Michael Jordan in the second three-peat. That's why it's so exciting. What if Chris Paul had joined? What if he'd made the playoffs, as in he hadn't been injured and been able to play this time? What if he'd had 3 or 4 more years, but at that level, that would have been a beautiful end to his career. Then maybe I'd be sat here making some sort of an argument. He's the GOAT. But I'm going to say he's the second best player of all time. Fabulous player for me. Then I'm actually going to hurt so many feelings. Because see this guy here, LeBron James, I'm not getting to him for a while. It's going to hurt your feelings, I'm afraid. So I will say body of work he's going to get to S tier, but he's going to get there at the end. So I'm actually, after this, going for Larry Bird. Larry Bird, look, I'm going to rank the old schoolers as well, but it's going to be harder for me because I didn't watch them play enough. Larry Bird, I've seen nearly all of his career. He is so fucking good. First of all, he has like a bit of the Magic Johnson / almost like a point guard. He was kind of a point forward himself. He could set people. He gave Kevin McHale so many passes, Bill Walton, Dennis Johnson, fucking who else? Everyone. He was just fucking working, baby. He was a really good passer. He's not a bad guy at steals, even though he wasn't that much of a defensive player. His main deficiency is defense, but spoiler, after these two, a lot of people's deficiency is going to be defense, or that's going to be their main strength. There's not many people on both sides of the ball. If you like hockey, I was a big hockey fan. I think two-way players are the kings. These are the best two-way players in the history of the NBA. Then you have Larry Bird, not as good a defender, amazing scorer, by the way. If the three-point line had been how it was used now, this guy would have been made $1 billion. And look, he isn't Steph Curry in terms of he doesn't have like the same athleticism, but his shot is one of the purest shots ever in NBA history. His shot is so fucking money. Now, he had a few NBA finals. He had the odd game that wasn't as great, but it was also the era of the bump and grind 80s where you can foul people all the time. And you're playing half-court basketball. And he's a guy who actually had a lot of injuries. Even when he came into the NBA, he actually sort of fucked his back up very early on. He had loads of fucking injuries. He didn't take care of himself. He drank beers and shit like that each night. He wasn't the guy who was going and get all the spots. So really, he only had a solid 10 years, but holy fuck did he cook all of those 10 to 12 years or whatever. He's fucking bonkers, this guy. Like, even at the end with a fucked up back, he was still a legend in the playoffs, still a monster in the fucking regular season. At the end of it, if you don't know his last season, he would still do shit like just put up like a 49-point triple-double against the fucking Blazers, who were like the team who went to the finals that year. He was a fucking monster. And he didn't just trash talk, he took it personally. He is actually the one who really pioneered what Kobe and Michael took later, of like, I go at the best player and I don't just win myself. I'm fucking with him and trying to get him on my level and humiliating and demoralize. Because here's the thing, their trash talk isn't just, oh, that's cool, he trash talk. He trash talks to demoralize you. Because when he tells you where he's going to hit it, then he hits it in your face right there and wins the game. That means next time you play him, you're always thinking, like, oh, fuck, oh, he's going to bust my ass again. Oh, this guy, he can back it up. I think that's why they do it. The psychological components. Why Anderson Silva did all that dodging. He didn't just do it to style on you. He actually also did that to set you up to all those feints and making you move, and then he can get the counter-attack off. He wanted to draw you into the fighting and also thinking he can hit him because he can't dodge, etc. I've already done my MMA one previously. Larry Bird is the third best player I have ever seen play basketball. He is fucking unbelievable. By the way, if he'd have had 3 to 4 more years without injury, forget rings. He already had the rings. He had, 3 rings? It's fucking sick. MVP 3 times in a row. Let's actually quickly go and look at that arenas. I'll show you for every single person. It'll be more fun if we do it this way. See, sadly, only got to play like, 12 years, 13 years? 13 years. Obviously quite injured on the last one. In fact, you see, very injured on this one, 1989. It just gets worse and worse. There's also an absolute world, by the way, where look at this MVP. Here's the other thing. Look how many times he was second. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you give him those, totally plausible he could win them. He's second MVP voting. Yeah, that would just be 7 MVPs, by the way. Legit earned. And even at the end of the career, they're still putting him in the mix. Although there's probably some biased cunt from Boston if we had the guess right. NBA first team pretty much the whole time until he's injured. Every single time. He's even on some defensive second teams, which people do ignore. By the way, his shooting, unbelievable. Remember, he's not a guy super close to the basket all the time. Look at his shooting. 3-point shooting was excellent, even though, yeah, he barely took any back then. One of the best free throw shooters of all time, by the way. Another thing about Michael Jordan and Kobe I appreciate. By the way, this is another reason LeBron doesn't get to go so high. If you can't shoot free throws, then you will not be able to consistently win late games and be the guy who carries the game. Even if you're brilliant in the rest of the game, this is a massive factor, free throws. No one's guarding you. It's just practice, technique, and skill. So if you can't do it, I'm very questionable. This guy is fucking, look at this. In a 75-game season, averaging 4 attempts a game, for almost 5 attempts rather, he shot 93%. His career, he averaged 88% from free throw. That is just 3 points all day long. And by the way, like Kobe and Michael Jordan, I have seen these 3 guys close so many fucking games just by hitting their free throws. Where you go down, they hit 2 or 1 out of 2, then the other team comes back, tries to score a point or whatever. You go back down again, they get fouled, they score 2 again. You go back, you come back down again, you score 2. And at the end, they scored 6 to 8 points at the end of the game and just won you the game by making free throws. LeBron can't do that. Wilt Chamberlain can't do that. Shaq can't do that. Maybe even Magic Johnson can't do it. A lot of the great players in history can't do that. These guys can. So that's why, even though he's not the two-way player, he also gets to go here. That's how special he was. Then, 4th on my list, this is where it gets tricky. Because here's the problem. If anyone knows how I evaluate players in other aspects, I can already tell this guy is boring the tits off me, this guy who's going to try and tell me about LeBron. So I won't be reading the chat during this thing. I don't want to get annoyed. So I will say my 4th best, if we're going off career and body of work, it's probably going to be, right, of the people I saw, it's going to be probably Magic Johnson, right? If we're going off history, it should be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But the issue here is this, or Wilt Chamberlain. But the problem is, if we're going off body of work as well, how well they played in the game, then I will always be biased to scorers in the same way as even though I love midfielders in football, I will always be biased, I'm afraid, to the person who's the striker because a goal is worth so much more than a brilliant pass and a link-up play, unfortunately, holding the ball. It just is. Except you can argue, that can stop people from getting the ball and scoring the other side. But a goal is just so valuable. Similar to scoring in basketball. It's why people always make the mistake of thinking volume shooters are overrated. If it was all about being efficient, where are Steph Curry's 8 rings and 9 MVP? They don't exactly. He's too efficient. It actually implies to me he should be greedy and take more shots if he's that efficient. Because basketball isn't about ending the game with a great box score percentage. It's about putting the ball in the hoop enough times that you score more points than an enemy. And so if that means, especially when the enemy doesn't play well, you just have to have a shit game, that doesn't matter as long as you get the ball in the hoop. That is one of the most underrated aspects of people like Wilt Chamberlain, Kobe Bryant, etc. So as a result, if we're going off scoring in those aspects, right, here's the problem. I do low-key sort of think you have to factor in part of the things about their career. Like if you never ever win, there probably is some aspect where you had some choke in your game, etc. So as a result, I'm going to say Magic Johnson gets to go there. Because first of all, it's a very different type of game. Like he's got the passing game better than Bird. I think he's the best passer ever. Isaiah Thomas can be up there, certainly. These two are very good, actually underrated passers for shooting guard. Mega player. Obviously, the big problem of his career is it was tragically cut short and his comeback. By the way, it still showed he had skills, but he was 36 at the time. Right, the problem is he only gets like a solid, 11 years in? But you go and you look. Another person, by the way, could have been MVP many times over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, including his last season. 9 times he was top 3 in MVP voting. So this guy could be sat on 9 MVPs, except the problem is he played in the era of Larry Bird and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Julius Erving and Moses Malone and some of those are potentially Mount Rushmore names, by the way. But he was a mega player. Now, crucially, obviously his assist game is fucking bonkers. His rebound game is actually underrated, and his scoring also is slightly underrated. Because look, he didn't take that many shots, and yes, some of them were in the open court, and some of them was like he used a fake to someone else to then take a shot himself. But he was a good offensive player. He could even post up towards the end of his career. He could shoot the 3-ball towards the end of his career too. Yeah, he had a bit of choke earlier on. You don't want him to close the game out, and you've got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. In the early days, it is mainly about feeding Kareem. He is the better player overall and the bigger scorer. But the all-around game, probably the best all-around game ever in the NBA. Better than LeBron's, by the way. Not as good a scorer as LeBron, but also a better passer. Probably as good a rebounder. Interestingly enough, better free throw shooter, 85%. That's a very respectable number. Had seasons where he shot 90%, where he shot 87%. Another 90%. And the attempts are big time. Now, you'll notice an obvious problem. Where's all the defensive teams? Doesn't happen. He's not a great defensive player, unfortunately. But he is one of the best offensive players ever. Not scorer, but offensive player. If you just love basketball, by the way, team basketball, this is one of your favourite players ever, one of the all-time great highlight players. So for me, Magic Johnson goes there. Then I am going to go to... This is where it gets spicy. Because like I say, for now, I'm also going to factor in resume. You've got to have some rings maybe or some MVPs. But later on, I'm going to put some names in that are going to make some of you cry your eyes out. That are unbelievable players, my test. And by the way, there's some that aren't even on this list, like Alex English. I think then I'm going to go with... Assuming I have to use history, I think I have to put Kareem in there. Now, I didn't see enough of him in the 70s, so some of this is going to be mainly about the 80s, which if you don't know, I'm going to show you some things about that. The main problem is he'd already played 10 years by the 80s. And by the 1980s began, he was already 32 years old. At the end of the 1980 season, he was 32 years old. So I saw him mainly in his 30s. And you know what? He was fucking unbelievable. Look at this. Bro, this is a guy aged 32 to 38 in 80s years with no sports science. And he is still averaging 20 plus points per game in the fucking hard man 80s. Bro, that is sick. Also, let's go and look at this. Field goal percentage is obviously phenomenal. It means he doesn't ever have to take 20 shots except for the early days when he was a smurf in the 70s. In the 70s, by the way, there's a reason why, as you'll go here, like this is the season Magic Johnson joined. Every other year, like he wins 5 MVPs before Magic Johnson ever joins the NBA. And in every season up to that point, in fact, let's have a season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 straight seasons as a top 5 MVP candidate. Then, late in his career, he puts in 3 more top 5, by the way, as a 36, 37, and 38-year-old man. Also, he's by the way, one of the greatest scorers ever. Like field goal percentage, because he had that unguardable shot. He's unbelievable. It meant that he never had to be as ball dominant. Like later on in his career, he had a very efficient game. Also, very good rebounder. Not as much an offensive rebounder, but monster early in the early. By the way, if you don't know in the 70s, this guy was the best player in the 70s, probably. Like the 70s alone would make this guy like potentially the GOAT, but I didn't watch enough of the 70s. Still an insane rebounder overall, not as much in his latter days for obvious reasons. Assists probably will shock you because until Magic Johnson got there, look at these assists for a centre. This is pretty legit. Steals are even very respectable in the 70s. He really was like the ultimate player in the 70s. He came along and actually showed up people like old ass Wilt, but that was because Wilt was old. And that was also the 60s and 70s in the era of the centres, by the way, and he was bodying these guys. Blocks are very, very impressive in his prime of the 70s. He also very rarely fouls. Doesn't turn the ball over too much. Yeah, there's a few back here, but that's because he was getting the ball quite a lot. He even plays way less minutes. He never plays 40 minutes in the 80s. Doesn't need to. So it's mainly the 70s that get him up there. Crucially, look how in defensive teams. Right, first of all, he's making the NBA first team loads or second team in the 80s. Defensive team, he's on the defensive second team, first, second, first, second. Second is a 36-year-old man in the fucking 80s on the defensive team. This guy is just unfucking believable how good he is. Obviously, he was a scoring champion himself. He was a block champion. He was a rebound champion. He was a 6-time NBA champion. Some of that's with Magic. Not all of those are as the first option, but I'll still say he was the first option for the Bucks one. He was the first option for the 80s one. There's another one around maybe... There's one around here where he's actually fucking bonkers. Let me have a look. Is it this one or this one? There's one I need to show you from when he's in his 30s, which is, let's see. So he was 37 years old in 1985. Watch this. I think it's this final. Let me just have a look here. But we'll just quickly have a look at 1987 too. No, it's that one. Right, so as a 37-year-old man in 1985, he won the ring against the Celtics, by the way. This is one of the best teams ever. It's not the team next year that get Bill Walton that some people say are the best ever, but it's the team without that. So this is the absolute second best team of the era. And in this series, here's what you probably don't know. He wins MVP of the finals, averaging this stat line against the team of the era, the other team of the era, as a 37-year-old man. 25.7 points, 9 rebounds and 5.2 assists. That is fucking insane. A 37-year-old man. Oh, and he was only shooting 60% in the finals. Meanwhile, Magic, just chilling on this one. 18, 14. Look, amazing assists, but just okay numbers here. This guy's unfucking believable, boys. Just a monster. Just a monster. Also, they used to say around here, oh, he's washed. Still putting up great numbers for a fucking 39-year-old man, bro. Still winning the championship. This one's Fugazi. They never should have won that. There was a phantom foul called on a Pistons player. They should only have won 5 rings, unfortunately. But then again, you could argue from the 70s, this guy could have won infinite rings, couldn't he? He could have won a ring every single year. So one of the best players to ever play basketball, but I didn't see enough of him to make him my GOAT, so I'm just going to put him there. I think it's very fair to put him there. I could have even put him ahead of Magic. It depends. Magic's all-around game was amazing. Maybe I'll put him ahead for now. Then I'm going to go, because I'm doing a mixture of body of work, eye test, and accomplishments. I actually think one of the best all-around is actually got to be Wilt Chamberlain. Another player, by the way, who maybe is the GOAT, I just can't say so because I didn't watch basketball in the 1960s. I haven't seen very much of his career, obviously. But his career's... Well, by the way, another thing about Wilt, actually about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar very quickly is not actually a bad free throw percentage for a centre. Keeps it in the 70s at least. It's not one of those idiots shooting 50% like my boy Wilt's about to. So you go and look at Wilt Chamberlain. Right, impossible numbers. And before people go, yeah, but everyone was scoring loads of... No, they weren't. So in this season, watch, where he scores the 50 points. Let's go and look. Yeah, true. Other people were so sick, they could score, get ready for it, 30 points a game. Yeah, that's true. How do I go to... Let's have a look here. Points... Go here. Points in a single season. If everyone could do it, why is he the one with all these? This is his era, the early 60s. Why aren't they all just... Why aren't there other people? Look, there's Bob McAdoo from 70s. Rick Barry from the late 60s. Elgin Baylor's... Oh, by the way, Elgin Baylor has like over 1,000 less points than this season here and like almost 700 less than that. It's just Wilt again. You could argue Wilt is the best scorer in the history of basketball, by the way. If you don't know, he just chose to retire. Look at the list. It's just him. He just chose to retire. He didn't want to keep playing. And their seasons, despite all his scoring, because if you don't know, he was the leading scorer during his career. He also absolutely, by the way, when he went to the Lakers, intentionally started to limit his scoring around here. That was when he did stuff like, remember, there was one of these seasons where he fucked around and got like the assist record. He had like the most assists, maybe this one here, 8.6 assists, just to prove to people he didn't have to just score. He could have kept scoring 30 points or 20 plus his whole career and probably kept playing for 10 more years, by the way. But he just chose not to. You could argue maybe he did it because people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar came, maybe because people like Elgin Baylor had retired and Jerry Rest was going to retire. Yeah, okay, there's reasons why. Now, he also could have won way more rings, by the way. Like, if you go to the career, he only won this ring here, which he did win over the Celtics. He had to meet the Celtics a billion times, and he used to play in the East, so he wasn't even making the finals. But look at his fucking numbers, boys. And by the way, he's still shooting very good field goal percentage. Look how many times he's over 50%. And then rebounds, probably the best rebounder ever, along with Bill Russell, by the way. And then blocks, they don't even record, but he had insane ones of those. He's even a pretty good passer. Look, this season he has 9 assists a game, while shooting 57% from 2. What a fucking unbelievable player. Look again how many MVP. He wins the MVP in his rookie season. Later on, he wins 3 MVPs in a row. Then he has 1, 2, 3, 4 more seasons as a top 5, 6, 7. It's right at the end of his career. 2 more. 7 seasons as a top 5 NBA candidate for MVP. Now, some of those are fugazi once you get past the 3, but still insane. NBA first team a million times in an era when it was a smaller league and everyone's on massive teams with loads of talent. It was actually harder to play back then. Almost every game you play is against another really good team because there's only 8 teams in the NBA at the beginning, isn't there? In case you were unaware of that. There was just 8 teams. So when you play all those games, you're playing a million games against the other great players. And by the way, go watch the video on my channel from the Wilt Chamberlain archive. Everything you've been told is a myth. He just played against 5'8" white guys. Untrue. Literally not true. He played in the era of centres who on average were the same size or slightly taller than they are now. And he played in the era of all the fucking Hall of Fame centres pretty much. The greats of all time. The best defenders, the best scorers. Unbelievable era. This was a mega talent-packed era of the NBA. But sadly, I didn't get to watch much of it, so I can't put him higher. He is a true contender for number 1. Everyone on the list so far, by the way, could be number 1, depending on what era of basketball you watched. Then I am going to go... and I'm going to start hurting feelings so fucking badly. Because I told you, my extreme bias is against people who don't play enough defense and have bad free throw shooting. So you can stay there for now. You can stay there for now, my dude. And you are just overrated. But let's go and look through. So I'm then going to go and I'm going to say, this is already where I'm going to hurt some feelings because we're only 6 names deep now. I actually think for a mixture of body of work, stats, accomplishment, eye test. Yeah, that's right. Get ready to get your feelings hurt. The first small forward after Larry Bird isn't LeBron James. It's going to be Kevin Durant, who technically played more like a shooting guard in his career, but we all know you can move him around wherever you want pretty much. I think he's even played a few seasons as fucking power forward. Let me double check that actually. I think he once got listed at let's see. Like, I think Kevin Durant was the best player of this era, assuming you count Kobe from the generation before. I think this was the best player of the era. Because if you go here... Yeah, he was listed as power forward at the latter part of his career. Shooting guard at the beginning. I think he really played like a shooting guard, personally. Now, the big problem he has in his career goes like this. I think Westbrook didn't pass him the ball enough early on, and especially took too many stupid threes late on. But I also do think there's times where he didn't play good enough defense. Kevin Durant, if he wanted to, and had locked in like Kawhi, because he has a frame like Kawhi's, could have been the best defensive player ever. Especially because he could have guarded, actually, fuck all that, like, only Scottie Pippen really guarded every position, and maybe Dennis Rodman. LeBron didn't. He only tried for a few years, and Kevin Durant just tried in moments. He actually had, I thought he always really disrupted people like Kobe, Carmelo. He looked like he actually did a pretty good job, but you notice there's a reason he's not on defensive teams here. I mean, bizarrely, he's Defensive Player of the Year, 9th pick there, but not even on the defensive team. And he doesn't make defensive teams. But I also think he was robbed of some MVPs. He won 1 MVP because he just scored so many that season. He had insane numbers. But how many seasons does this guy need to do? Almost 50%, almost 40% from 3, and almost 90% when you round it up. The magic 50, 40, 90. This guy does it like for most of his career, by the way. These numbers would average out to that for his whole career. One of the best scorers I've ever seen. If I actually wanted a scoring package, like Michael Jordan's is pretty hard to beat, but it also does, I think, in part rely on the era he played in. I think would have played differently in the 2000s. Kevin Durant is one of the only games I think can play in every single era of basketball. Now, look, those probably can too, but I look at it and I could see this being amazing in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s. It's godlike in our era too. I actually wish he shot more. There's not enough seasons where he does 20 shots for my money, considering how efficient he is. He's a very efficient player. I mean, look at these fucking numbers, though. These are crazy numbers. Look at that. He takes 5 3-pointers a game, almost 5.5, and shoots 45%. Like, that is actually OP as fuck. This guy is unbelievable. Incredible scorer. Could have won the MVP 4 or 5 times. Could have had the scoring title every season if he just chose to ball out like he could have. Yeah, maybe he made some good decisions to get rings by going to the Warriors. Well, I think he cocked Curry. Then also, and he himself played well off ball. I think in the Nets, he obviously had all those injury problems. Still had some gangster playoff games. And the Suns, I told him not to go there. Look, not like he gives a fuck what I think, but I just knew that there would be too many people who want the ball. And then they added Bradley Beal as well. Like, there was just too many people with that. Even though actually I do like Booker's game. It's aesthetically good to watch. He can be a little bit of a choker. So I think this guy could have had an even better career, but you just look at his body of work, look how many seasons. And then crucially, again, an unbelievable free throw shooter. Like, I'm not a guy who just goes mental over efficiency. So actually, by the way, I wish he brought the efficiency down and just shot a few more times. I also think if he'd have done that, he could have basically individually from small forward been like what Kareem was in the 70s, whether you won the title or not. You would have just been the real people's champion if you watched the game. I think he's absolutely fucking insane. This is why I'm so glad I don't read the chat. Because I just know you'll all be annoying the piss out of me in that chat saying shit about LeBron. I don't give a fuck about LeBron. I actually watched all of basketball that I was in my lifetime. And even the earlier era, I watched loads of games by getting them off certain places on the internet when it used to be possible. Can't do it now, sadly. Although there's still trading people out there you can contact. So I'm going to go Kevin Durant there for a mixture of everything. I'm purposely keeping back the people with no rings because I feel like I have to put these guys in since they've got the rings and the accomplishments and all the rest of it and the eye test. Then I'm going to go... Let me just look at everyone. Make sure I get everyone in here. Then I'm going to go Jerry West. Yes, he only has 1 ring. He only has 1. Just the 1 ring. But if there's any player in NBA history, it's not the fault of they only have 1 ring instead of like 7 rings. It's this guy. First of all, he played in the era where the majority of the rings were won by the Boston Celtics, who just won everything in that era, who had a very OP player in Bill Russell, but had an amazing team too. Red Auerbach killed it with making that team. And there's a reason why, if you go and look how many times this guy's top 5 MVP. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then he retired in a 20-point season where he's still averaging mega numbers. He just chose to retire. All-star every single season, by the way. All NBA first team most seasons. Here's the thing that's underrated. Before Kobe and Michael, he was one of the only people who would be an MVP candidate, best offensive player, and be defensive first team. Because you go and you look, they don't record steals back then, but he was mega. Look at his assists, by the way. Yeah, he's playing point guard sometimes. Pretty good assists. He's shooting guard elsewhere. His numbers on actually offense are mega. He's just a really fucking sick player, and he makes his free throws. Not quite at the level of some of the others, but he makes his free throws. In the playoffs, one of the best players to ever play basketball. These are seasons he's losing. Look at this. 44%. Not that great a field goal shoot percentage. I think that was one where a bunch of people were injured. 40 points average for that. If you don't know, he was in the finals something like 7 or 8 times and only won once. But in the finals, he averaged something like 30 points a game. He's fucking insane. There's a reason why when they introduced the first finals MVP in 1969 or whatever it was, he won it despite losing in 7 games. So many times, his team was mega, but people just failed. And the reason why he's Mr. Clutch is he used to actually hit clutch shots and game winners, even if his team didn't win the championship. There's a famous detail, which is there's one NBA game, you've all seen the shot, where he throws like a 3/4 length shot and it goes in. That was back when there wasn't a 3-point line. So that only tied the game and sent it to overtime. That would have just won the game outright and been the greatest game winner ever. Just would have been a 3-pointer. So it would have won the game in the modern era. A fucking unbelievable player. Unbelievable. Sadly, I don't have the eye test, so for this one again, we're just doing historical people. I have to put him in there. I think he's actually got a very underrated career, and he did get the ring, and he did get the the other thing about him as well is he didn't win an MVP, but that's because he played in the era of Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, fucking a whole bunch of Oscar Robertson, eventually Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. These are just fucking they're too cracked out. But I also count the defensive side. He was a really good two-way player. So look, he was the assist champion one year. He was the scoring champion one year. He was an NBA champion. He was a 5-time all-defensive player, finals MVP. Just a fucking sick, sick player. After him, I am going to put... Maybe this is when LeBron comes in. This might be when I introduce LeBron, because I'm already 3, 6, 8. I usually put LeBron at the bottom of my top 10. So... I think I could put LeBron now because he does have the rings and the MVP. So that aspect, if we're counting that in, gets him in here. If we're just going off body work, I'd probably have him 10th or 11th, to be fair. I'm going to put him in here. He does have the 4 rings. Now, he has some semi-fugazi rings, doesn't he? Think about his rings. He has a lockout season in 2012. Then he has a fucking bubble year. Fucking hell, bro. Even the ring he won against the Warriors, well, one of their best players, like our top 4 players, Draymond Green, got just banned for a game for that semi-fake nut punch, which wasn't that big a deal, was it? I'd grow the fuck up. In the 80s, you just keep playing from that. So he won one ring that doesn't have some sort of an asterisk, but he was sick in that one that he won. He also was very sick in years he didn't win. I do think he is overrated, because what a LeBron fan will do, like that guy in the chat, is they'll just find a stat, and then they'll just go, you know, he technically hit more buzzer, but he played 1 million more games than Michael Jordan, you idiot. Like, do you actually understand what we're talking about here? You're not listening to the conversation. We're talking about how good they were as a player, who was the greatest player ever, not who has one stat where he just maxed it out. And if we don't watch the game, that just means they win automatically. No, number can't tell you who's the winner. Your eyes have to, and your understanding of the game, and your own biases and preferences. So my problem with LeBron goes like this. First and foremost, I think he coasted way too much of athleticism in his early years. Like, I think until about... Like, everyone remembers that one game in 2007 against the Pistons where he went crazy. He sort of played a bit of a Michael Jordan game, hitting the mid-range. They don't remember that in the next game he played quite badly, and Boobie Gibson, who you've never heard of if you're a modern-day fan, hit all the three-pointers, and that beat the Pistons, who the league had already nerfed defense for, so they couldn't win like 5 championships. They should have won at least 2 over the Spurs as well, but Robert Horry nicked one from them. Maybe even 3/4 if they'd kept those defensive rules. So he got past that one, and then in the finals, what did he do? Get absolutely murked by the Spurs. So even though it looked like he'd already got the mid-range game, then he hadn't. He was a very streaky shooter, and he mainly relied on just driving to the basket, and he was just a bulldozer. You couldn't stop him, especially not in this era of fouls. I'd love to have seen him play in the 80s or 90s. He'd still be a great player, but how would he play when people play like they do now, hard defense against him, and he doesn't get the same calls because he doesn't deserve them anymore. So, but he could still score at an insane rate. So for me, he never should have been the MVP. Like, he won his first MVP in 2009. I think he was a candidate in these years. People were trying to give him the MVP in 2006, by the way. I think he should, look, he wasn't even hitting 50%. He's shooting loads and loads of layups, because look at his 3-point percentage. Sometimes sus, right? And I don't care that later he put in his work and shot way more and got it up. Yes, okay, that's great. So my problem is, I think he only became the truly godlike LeBron from, like, in theory, it should have been around the time he went to the Heat, but he still had a bit of chalk in his game there. 2013 onwards, I think 2013 to like 2013 to 2018, so we're talking 6 seasons, I think was his absolute peak. I think he was fucking sick, not least because he started properly playing defense. He shouldn't have had the first team defense on some of these years, by the way, but these years he really locked in. And this year it was the one he worked with Hakeem, I think, and worked on his post game. His post game got really good. That's why his percentages were going up even. His 3-point shot got way better. Now, another problem I have with LeBron is he's not the best at any one angle. He's not the best scorer. Again, if you go, but he's top of the list, then you don't understand basketball and you're wasting my time. I'm not going to have a silly argument with you that the person who plays more games than everyone else, even though they have a lower point per game and the other people chose not to play, that makes them the best scorer ever, even though you'd never take, if I said to you, take one player to score the most points in a game or you die, you would die if you took LeBron James. If you took Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, Kobe, maybe even Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, you would actually have a chance of surviving. You would be instantly dead if you took LeBron James. Because first of all, he does pussy out in the fourth quarter and about taking like tough shots. He tries to bulldoze and get the foul. I also think, by the way, he didn't shoot enough. Here's another person. I want him to shoot this much like he did on the dodgy ass Cavs in this era. But he has all these times where he's just not taking enough shots. Yes, for modern stats fans, they're loving the efficiency. But where are the shots, bro? You're letting yourself lose games. And I'm sorry, he did have super teams from Miami onwards. He had a whole bunch of super teams he made over and over and over and over and over again. So even his 4 rings, look, he was the best player on them. But I think they slightly have an asterisk in that sense. The other players didn't have the same free agency. They didn't have the GM aspect to make teams run. I actually think he's underperformed in his career. I think he could have won more MVPs, more scoring titles. Didn't he only win like 1 or something pathetic like that? Let's have a look up here. Yeah, he won 1 scoring title. He was the assist champion only once. That's weird. So he's not the best scorer ever. Durant's even a better scorer. Kobe's a better scorer than him. He's not the best assist player ever, but everyone goes, he passes like Magic Johnson. Does he? Fuck. He plays in an era when assists are counted way better, and he has 1 season ever where he barely gets over 10 assists. He's not as good a passer as fucking Magic Johnson. And forget Magic Johnson. How about these names? John Stockton, unbelievable passer. Isaiah Thomas, fucking godlike bounce pass. How about Jason Kidd, fucking eyes in the back of his head? Mate, these guys are fucking monsters. Chris Paul. LeBron's very good in every area. He's the ultimate jack of all trades. And he had the athleticism, the sports science, and the GM factor. He should actually have maxed every stat out. He should have won 1 million rings, 1 million MVPs, all defensive team, every single season. He could actually, like a Kareem or a Wilt, he could have chosen, if he'd had the mindset, to be the greatest player ever. But just like Shaq, he chose not to be, and I'm going to punish that. And so another aspect about his game, I said it before, what a fucking whack free throw shooter. He's playing small forward, or power forward, the majority of his career. What a fucking shit free throw shooter. Even in his prime, he's shooting 75%, 75%, 71%. Then he's shooting 60%. You're in the 60s. Bro, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar shoots better than that. In fact, let me just look this up a second. Mega tall Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Let's see what he shot for his career, shall we? For his whole career, shot 72%. LeBron is only at 73%. Let's go to seasons. Look how many times Kareem is over 75%. 6 seasons. Now, LeBron was over 75%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And he plays fucking small forward. You're even all going to tell me he's the greatest scorer and shooter. Like, give me a fucking break. He's a great 3-point shooter because he just maxed it out at the end and he took all the easy open shots. This guy was a fucking bomb from the line. And you know why? You know why. Because he is something of a choker late in games. Not a massive choker. Not even one of the biggest chokers ever. That's unfair. But of all the GOAT candidates, he's easily the biggest choker for my money. And he just didn't carry sometimes in the finals. So before you go, one day, don't worry, I'll do a whole video about LeBron. I'm going to do 2 videos. I'm going to do a steel man of his GOAT case. And I'm going to do one where I actually show you why he's a fraud. Here's the kind of things I hate about LeBron. I'm going to pull up 2 things for you very quickly. So we're going to go 2016. No, 20. I did the wrong one there. That's why. That's what went wrong with that. We're going to do the finals he lost, where everyone was injured. And then we're going to do that finals everyone remembers where he was so sick, and he was, numbers-wise. Here's what we're going to look at very quickly. So we're going to go to the finals, where the Golden State Warriors won 4-2. Now, even though he had all injured players, he was up 2-1 in the series. So you're going to go, yeah, because of him. Look, it's him. It's him, my dude. So he's taken all the shots. We're basically asking him, be Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. So your favourite scorer of all time went crazy, and he tried to score the ball as much as he could. He tried to absolutely fucking cook. Look how many shots he got, 196. That's 70 more than Steph Curry, by the way. Took 196 shots, and he didn't even average 40% from the field. He was shit from 3-point, and he shot 68% from the line. I don't care that these numbers are gaudy. Look, volume scoring is how you try and win. He just showed he wasn't actually that great a volume scorer. I think that's why you see the efficiency in all the passes in the rest of his game. The rest of the stat line looks bonkers. Block's not that great. Steal's not that great. Until you go and you look at these, and then I'll just show you a couple of games. Remember I said they were up 2-1? Right, remember the first game where the Warriors won in OT? Watch this. LeBron James, fucking sick, right? This is really good volume scoring. Until you watch this. Oh, third quarter, still pretty sick. Ooh, fourth quarter, that's totally fine. Overtime, 1 out of 4. 1 out of 4. So there's why you lost game 1. Not totally, but that's a decisive factor. Then you go to, you won this game, game 2. Game 2, let's go to here. 2 out of 10 in the third quarter. 2 out of 8. So for the second half, he's 4 out of 18, but he gets to OT because he had an awesome first half. He gets to OT. So obviously, by the way, he's not doing nothing. I mean, some of the other people are obviously scoring buckets here, aren't they? And the Warriors played like shit. Then in OT, absolute bomb. They won this game. Absolute bomb in OT. The only person to score a basket was fucking Iman Shumpert. My God. He made some free throws at least there. Then we'll go to game 3, where they go up 2-1. Not a very good first half. Way better second half. And then you go to the rest, it gets bad in all the fourth quarters, by the way. We can have a look here if you want. Fourth quarter, 0 out of 2. 0 out of 2. Only took 2 shots in the fourth quarter of basketball. You're all telling me he had no help. He had to do it all, Thorin. Where was he? Where was he? Then we'll go to game 5. Pretty good stat line, right? 1 out of 6 in the third. 6 out of 13 is pretty good in the fourth. Still, that's fine for volume shooting. But for a second half, overall, not very good. 7 out of 19. Made his free throws, but didn't go to the line enough. Then we'll just do the last one really quickly. Again, I can do this another day. I'm also never going to get through all the bloody players if I keep doing this. Right, 13 out of 33. So you know there was something sus there because the numbers don't add up. So we'll go here. Third quarter, 2 out of 7. So you're already losing this game. And 5 out of 12, which isn't bad for volume shooting, but it's not great, is it? And no free throws attempted and missed every 3-pointer. 1 offensive rebound, 1 steal, 0 blocks. Miss me with him being the MVP. The MVP actually should have been Steph Curry, despite what you think, and here's why. So Steph Curry, look at his stat line. Still got 38% from 3. These are totally fine numbers. This is the MVP of that finals, not Andre Iguodala. LeBron played shit. It wasn't just... Iguodala's a good defender. He was never like an all-world defender like that, though. Then let's look at 2018, the one that everyone cries the hardest about, because he was giga carrying, wasn't he? By the way, the Celtics, on paper, maybe even should have had a chance to get up there. So in the finals, where he gets swept 4-0, I'm going to very quickly show you the game you all love. You all love this. You all said this might be the greatest game ever played in the finals, because look at that stat line. That is fucking monstrous. To score 50 points in the finals with 8 assists and 8 rate is mega. But there's still a flaw, because it's LeBron. And it's like he was designed by Allah, because there's always a flaw in there to remind you that only Allah is perfect. And actually, everything except Allah isn't perfect. Probably going to get killed for saying that now. Brilliant. So obviously he had a great game here, didn't he? Look, he's having a mega fourth quarter. J.R. Smith fucks it up. You know what they don't tell you? Because J.R. Smith fucked up that last possession, LeBron had a tantrum, and in overtime he did nothing whatsoever except make 2 free throws. He got 0 assists, 0 defensive rebounds, 0 steals, 1 block. He missed a 3-pointer and then missed 3 other field goals. Meanwhile, J.R. Smith, who fucked up the end of the game, at least scored a bucket. But tell me more about how it was just actually like unfair. Also, by the way, head to head, remember how many times you saw Kevin Durant hit that like 3-point shot in the big games in these finals in 2017, 2018? You almost never saw LeBron in that shot though, did you? He refused to take on the challenge of defending literally his opposite position. That's the other player of your era, your main competition, not Steph Curry, he's a different type of player. But another small forward, you should be locking him up, mate, and scoring. Didn't do it. So I've always thought he bitched out. And by the way, holy fuck is this guy had some bad playoffs. Like, here's what's funny. Let's go look at some finals. 2012, he smurfed. 2013, really good. I don't do the Skip Bayless thing. I'm like, yeah, but if Ray Allen didn't, yeah, but he did hit that shot. And LeBron was still really good in the next game. These are two very legit rings. Then you go down to here, 2016, overall mega. 2020 was very good, but I actually thought Anthony Davis was at least a 1B. He was very, very good in those finals in that playoff run. Here's the one that's nonsense, is there's a couple where he's the reason why they don't run a ring. 2007, he is actual fucking liquid dog shit in the finals. It's actually embarrassing how bad he is. It's embarrassing how bad he is. And if you ever go and watch, he is absolutely left open, dared to shoot, and he just misses everything. He gets 22 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He shoots 35%. And he went 4 for 20 from 3-point. Miss me with that Kobe Bryant Game 7, by the way, score, while your boy's doing this shit. Now, admittedly, he's 22 years old, but I tell you what, Kobe Bryant at 22 years old was already cooking in NBA Finals. He was mega, mate. He wasn't shooting that sort of percentage. And then also, obviously, the 2011 one's an absolute fucking disgrace, isn't it? It's probably, bearing in mind, this was in his actual prime when he's winning MVPs and getting everything ranked. This is so disgraceful, it's unreal. Like, here's the overall series stats. Fucking pathetic. 17 points on 47%, 32%, and 60% from the line. But it's worse when you look at the games. Because obviously they went up 2-1, didn't they? So in game 1, 9 out of 60, that's a pretty good scoreline. Even did work in the fourth. That's fair play. Then Dallas won the second one in close fashion. LeBron's actually had an okay game there. But if you don't know, I think another reason why he was sulking is because if they'd have won this finals, which the Heat should have, then Dwayne Wade would have been MVP, by the way. I'm telling you that right now. And LeBron would have then had 0 MVPs in the finals and Dwayne Wade would be on 2 at that point in time. Where the fuck is this guy in the fourth quarter? Dwayne Wade's doing his best, mate. Where is he? Third quarter, he was 3 out of 4. That's not bad. Then we'll go to game 3, which they won. They won game 3. 6 out of 14, carried by Dwayne Wade and Bosh. Although Bosh was kind of a bit shit in that game too. Fourth quarter, just fuck all. He doesn't even deserve to win this game. Dirk Nowitzki's absolutely outplaying the shit out of him. Then the rest of the games, it only gets worse, by the way. 3 out of 11 in this game. 0 for 1. 2 for 6. 0 for 1 in the fourth quarter. Holy shit. 1 out of 4 in this fourth quarter. In the last game, I think he did all right in this game, didn't he? 9 out of 15 in this one. 3 out of 5. At least he had a decent fourth quarter in that one. Yeah, I'll give him it. The fourth quarter, this one's not bad. So maybe if he shouldn't have won game 3, then he should have won game 6. How about that? But absolute. There's 2 finals. 2 of the worst finals performances I've ever seen from a GOAT candidate, by the way. You all like to talk shit on Kobe because of the 2004 finals. Fuck out of my face. By the way, he also solo won one of those games. LeBron is one of the most overrated players ever because you say he is the best and then cite stats that aren't about watching the game of basketball. But I'll put him here because he has an amazing body of work, incredible longevity. He was very, very good. He's one of the few people on this list, some of them by choice. His is by choice in terms of his mentality. But like with the career he had, no one else had a maxed out career like he did. He could have done everything. I mean, maybe Kareem you could say, but he didn't have the sports science. So anyway, that part was way too fucking long for LeBron, wasn't it? Holy fuck, was that long? Holy shit. But I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to do every player, by the way. After him, bearing in mind, I'm trying not to do the players without the rings. Some of them are going to come very soon. And I already would have put people like Karl Malone ahead of him. Woo! But we'll get there in a second. I'm then going to put Shaquille O'Neal there. And the reason I'm going to put Shaquille O'Neal there is because people always mischaracterize Shaq's career. Like, I'm someone who thinks he was overrated in the end and slightly overrated when he played with Kobe because it wasn't just him. He had Phil Jackson. They had really good defense in the Lakers. They actually had fucking sick role players. These are all the Phil Jackson hallmarks. They had the triangle offense to help people out. And he had Kobe, who was an insane OP top 5 player in the league and a clutch player to help out Shaq's failing, which is late in games and free throws. But the part about Shaq's career people misunderstand is the early part, When he is in Orlando, he is a fucking demon. This is like Kareem coming in the league shit. You really could have given him MVP. Look at these numbers. Look at the field goal percent. By the way, the black here is he like led the league in these. I think this means he led the league in field goal percentage every season that's like that. He was a sick player. And also, you notice, he's very rarely ever doing 20 shots a game. Especially in the era with Kobe, he doesn't shoot enough. It's true, Kobe should have passed him the ball a little bit more. But then again, maybe he should have worked out and stayed in shape more. Then Kobe might have passed him the ball. We all know the argument there. The main problem I have is this, a mega offensive force. Like, just like Magic Johnson, you wouldn't want him as the one to close the game, and you probably need another player there to win the game. But if you have any closer, that's why it made sense that he won with Kobe and then Dwayne Wade. And he could have won maybe with Penny, who was also sick, by the way, but injuries halted him. Maybe he even could have won with LeBron later, but Ron wasn't quite in peak form when he got to LeBron, was he, down here? So even though, by the way, the season before he went to LeBron, he was still mega. Look at this, 60%. He's only taken 11 shots. He has 17 points a game. I mean, mega's going a bit too far, but he's still very good. Look how many times, even in 2006, he's All-NBA. By the way, I actually think on paper, I would have given the 2005 MVP to him over Steve Nash and the 2006 one to Kobe. And I actually also think, I don't hate that Dirk won it in 2007, but I don't think Kobe should have won it in 2007. So I think he should have won at least 2 MVPs. You could also argue, I mean, he has a whole bunch himself. He could have 3, 4, 5 MVPs. If he actually cared, like LeBron, about staying in shape and spending money on his body and all that, and he'd had and by the way, if he'd ever had the Kobe work ethic and mentality, he could have been the best player ever, for real. Especially because people only know him from the Lakers onwards, but he was unreal before. He already did like a Hall of Fame career before the Lakers. And then even at the Lakers, people forget at the end, he was still pretty good. It's just the problem is he started to fall off in Miami as soon as that bad season happened. Before that, he was shit in the finals, but he was still mega in the playoffs. It was still a 1A, 1B until the finals with Dwayne Wade these 2 seasons. They also could have won 2005, by the way. That was the one where the Pistons got them, and the Pistons probably should have won that title, in my opinion. So I think he is a fucking bonkers. But obviously, big problems he has is doesn't play defense, hence you'll look. He's only on some defensive second teams for blocks here. He wasn't playing good hustle defense. He did some good rim protection sometimes. And also, he had Kobe. Yeah, that's right. Kobe can go against Shaq. Did you know that? Yeah. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And also, he is fucking atrocious at free throws. And the worst thing about his free throw shooting is Rick Barry, who could already shoot 90% and did the underarm technique to show people how you could consistently shoot 90%, told him, you do this system, look, you don't even have to shoot 90, I could probably get you to 70%. That would have been, no joke, a bunch more rings and titles and MVPs if he'd have done what Rick Barry said and humbled himself. So this is why the worst thing about Shaq is he essentially, like a little petulant kid, chose not to do all these things. It's one of the reasons I burned this motherfucker in real life, because I'm more in the Kobe camp, Anna. I do think Shaq was one of the greats, and he's a mega entertainer, but he deserved to get burned. Also could probably have played more years if he'd kept his body in shape. He could have played past 40 if he'd wanted to. Could have been a Wilt Chamberlain, and they both could have just played as long as they wanted. So I think he has to go there. He was a mega player. I can take so many good wing players and build around them and have a chance to win. But, you know when people go, imagine if LeBron had prime Shaq. Yeah, he wouldn't have won the championship because who could have closed the game? They'd both foul out or they'd both be scared on the line and they wouldn't hit the buzzer beater. And LeBron only started those buzzer beaters in the latter part of his career when he chose to be more of a shooter because he wasn't as athletic to go to the basket anymore. Yeah, that's how that works. So actually, you know what? T-Mac was a bit of a playoff choker sometimes. He had a bit of the Jerry West in him where he also had some mega series where people just carried against him. T-Mac maybe could have won because he was a mega shooter. Kevin Durant could win if he played with Shaq. Steph Curry, I don't know because he's not that great in fourth quarters always. Larry Bird would win a ton with Shaq. Obviously Michael Jordan and Kobe would win a bazillion rings with him if they played like 20 years, etc. Jerry West would surely win. He's a closer. Kevin Durant would win. He's a closer. Certain people wouldn't though. Right, after that, I'm actually now going to say fuck rings. Because there are other players with rings that probably deserve to be here. But I actually think I'm going to start putting other people in there. So I'm going to put one more guy, I think, with a ring. And then I'm going to start putting the others. I'm going to put Oscar Robertson. Obviously, I didn't watch him play. I didn't watch the 1960s of fucking basketball. But one, his numbers are insane. Like, forget Westbrook. Westbrook padded his stats with defensive rebounds. And they used to count assists differently back in this era. Like if someone took the ball and dribbled once and then did a move, that wasn't an assist in the 1960s. It is nowadays. It's just if you pass them the ball and then they do an insane move. Like people are getting assists off Kobe and Durant doing shots sometimes when it's obviously not supposed to be an assist. His assists are insane and he really was for years and years and years averaging a triple-double while scoring 30 points, by the way, and being the MVP. He was insane. He won an MVP off Wilt Chamberlain, by the way, because of how bonkers he was. He's a guy who had a mega physical frame, really good free throw shooter. Good rebounder. Obviously didn't play long enough, so I can't put him much higher up. And if you don't know, the reason what's also insane about how good he was as a point guard is this is the era when anything except hand on top of the ball, bouncing the ball, is literally a carry and a foul against you. So none of that through the legs, Kyrie Irving, none of that carrying it like AI, none of the shit they do now. They wouldn't be able to do it. They could, literally, your modern day, Kyrie Irving couldn't even dribble the ball in the 1960s. You like to go, how would Oscar manage? By the way, Oscar is a massive guy. Look at this. He is 6'5", but 205 pounds. This is usually your rookie weight as well, by the way. He was a beast. 6-time assist champion, NBA champion, MVP, 11 times All-NBA, mega player. Right, after him, I'm actually already going to make people upset because I'm now going to go down to... Let me just check, actually. I'm going to have to look at someone's stats. I think I'm going Moses Malone now because I'm still doing rings, and he was a guy who won rings and MVPs. So obviously he won the one ring there in 1983, and he had 3 MVPs. 2 of them in Houston, 1 in the Sixers. Could also have won the MVP in 1985, you'll notice he's number 3 there. He was even on the NBA defensive team once, and on the second team once. Wasn't that much of a defensive player. What he was a really good scorer. He didn't even need to take the 20 shots because he just has good percentage. An amazing, amazing rebounder. Look how many seasons he's averaging like big time offensive rebounds. That means his percentage doesn't matter because when he misses, he gets his own rebound and then scores the ball after that. And you don't have a possession going the opposite way. An unbelievable rebounder. Decent blocks. Nothing crazy. Decent blocks though. Maybe phoned it in a little bit towards the end of his career, but still had a fabulous career of scoring that people underestimate. There's a reason he was the MVP this many times. Great playoff scorer too. Look at the rebounds in the playoffs. Look at the scoring in the playoffs. He just didn't have that many chances to go all the way. Won that time. Could have won that time. Could have won that time with Houston, obviously. But that was back when he used to run into the fucking Lakers. Although, actually, wait, I think it's the one where they lost to the Celtics in the finals. Let's have a look here. Yes, this is where they didn't play the Lakers. Oh, they played the Lakers in the first round, that's why. By the way, you had a pretty good finals. Look at that. Fucking hell, look at these rebounds. Look at the offensive rebounds in the finals against the Celtics, which wasn't the same Celtics front line. They hadn't got people, I think maybe he hadn't even got McHale at this point in time. Didn't he come like the next year or a year later? Yeah, they didn't have McHale yet. They still had Cedric Maxwell. Oh no, McHale's on the bench, that's why. So, mega player as well. I think it's totally fair to have him here, assuming you have to count rings and other things. Now, the player I was thinking, I just said it earlier, of putting on there, was obviously Karl Malone. Now, miss me with anything about his life outside of the game. This is basketball, dickhead. Some of these guys are wankers. Who cares? I'm talking about basketball. One of the greatest scorers to ever play. Better scorer than LeBron, by the way. If LeBron had to play in the 80s and 90s, he wouldn't score like this. This guy really was the mailman. He did deliver every game, it felt like scoring. Now, a bit like Melo, he had the odd time in the playoffs where I felt like he had some letdowns in like the big game, but his general scoring would still be insane. Look how many times he's in the MVP conversation. From his year 25 in 1989, he's top 3. And then look how many times he's right in there. Right in there. Then he does win 2 MVPs, one while Michael Jordan was playing, one after Michael Jordan was playing. He won the MVP as a 35-year-old, by the way, in the lockout season. That's the reason it's that many. Famously, until the Lakers, he used to be playing every single game. Look how many times he's doing it. Oh, there's another thing about LeBron, by the way. Just like Shaq couldn't get through it to 80 games or even 70 games, let's just look one more time. LeBron's games and load management is fucking pathetic considering he wants to brag about longevity. Hey, I played more seasons. No, you didn't. You just played 3/4 seasons or 2/3 seasons. Where the fuck are your 80-game seasons? Happened 3 times. You only got over 75. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 seasons. Other than that, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then one of these is probably a lockout. But that is fucking pathetic how many times he doesn't play 80 games. It's pathetic. He has so many fake injuries, LeBron. Karl Malone is the Iron Man. He himself doesn't get 20 shots a game except one time. Mega field goal percentage. If you don't know, by the way, this wasn't LeBron style going to the basket. Yes, he would sometimes pick and roll with John Stockton and get to the basket because he was physically intimidating. He was a bodybuilder physique, but he had an unbelievable mid-range game. For a power forward, you would be shocked how good this guy's 2-point mid-range game from about 10 to 12 feet is. It is fucking money in the bank. And if your only thing is, yeah, but what about the rings? What about the rings? That sounds like you don't want to watch them play basketball or discuss basketball. You just want to count jewelry on people's fingers in a team sport, mate. You sound like an imbecile to me. I have no respect for you or anything you have to say. So this guy was fucking unbelievable. Look how many times NBA first team, by the way. And he's playing in the era of Charles Barkley. Later on, eventually even Tim Duncan. He was really money. And he could go head-to-head, by the way, with people like Shaq. And absolutely play well in their physical prime. He was a really sick player. Playoffs, you're going to go, you're choking. Unbelievable playoff performer. Yeah, didn't always do it that well in the game 7 or the closeout game or the finals. By the way, even then, finals are underrated. Let's go look at the 2 times he was in the finals. Right, so 1 time was against Michael Jordan when Michael Jordan was godlike and scoring like 40% of his team's points. You're going to have a hard time beating that, by the way. But you know what? He still did get 23 points, 10 assists, 3 assists, 10 rebounds, and he still got 44%, which is good. Then you go in 98. 25 points, 10 rebounds on 50% shooting. These are numbers that win you MVP, or like finals MVP, and the chip in a different year when you don't play Michael Jordan's Bulls. We just play some other team. This guy could have rings. He had a phenomenal body of work. A really, really good player. I would actually genuinely suggest, rather than be ignorant and go, wait a minute, the ring, go and watch him play. Go and watch his games. And with John Stockton, true, he had John Stockton. Whereas I think it's better, I don't know about that. I guess Scottie Pippen was amazing in terms of defense. That's another really good sidekick player, though. So there we go. Then I'm going to go, now it gets tricky. Because these are all S-tier players for me. But who else scores in S-tier? Mate, I'm going to put some others in S-tier that I will consider moving down to A-tier. So I also think for me... Oh, shit, I actually should have put him in already. I've got to say, I actually will say I'm going to put him above everyone except Durant, because Durant is an amazing scorer for me. I'm going to put Hakeem Olajuwon. I also already should have had him ahead. Not only does he have the 2 rings, and one of them, by the way, is insanely hard. He's playing like no fucking help. And then the one with Clyde Drexler, he's playing really hard opponents like the Suns, etc. So, and a lot of people thought the Magic could have won. A lot of people thought the Knicks could have won. Obviously, that was even 7 games. John Starks played like shit. What a fucking sick player Hakeem Olajuwon is. Let's go here. Amazing longevity, by the way. Another player who doesn't take enough shots for a lot of his career. Really sick percentages. By the way, not a bad free throw shooter considering he's playing centre most of his career. Not bad. Very good defender, especially early on. Pretty good passer in the middle of his career. Amazing blocks. If you don't know, this guy could get like amazing steals and blocks at the same time and score. Very sick. He only won the 1 MVP. He could easily have won 2 or 3. He played in the era of Shaq. David Robinson won 1. Maybe that one there. Obviously, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. This guy's a very sick player. Look how many times he's on the defensive team. A whole bunch of defensive team. By the way, he won Defensive Player of the Year twice. He also could have won that time. He could have won that time. He could have won that time. He could have won that time. This guy's on the Defensive Player of the Year so many times. If you want a 2-way player, I actually probably should put him higher up here. He should be with these as the 2-way players, right? Could I do that, though? Like, history tells me these players are greater, but I saw this guy with my eyes. I'm going to put him with the other 2-way players. I can't put him over Larry Bird, because Larry Bird could also close the game incredibly. Maybe I'm going to put Olajuwon all the way up there, because I have to somewhat penalise people I didn't watch play enough in their primes. 2-time rebound champion, 3-time block champion, 2-time champion, 9-time all-defensive, 2-time defensive player of the year, MVP, 2-time finals MVP. Just a fucking sick player. One of the best post-up games ever. You basically couldn't guard him. And he was really sick defensively. I just think to myself, if he'd gone to different teams, imagine he'd played for a Lakers or something. Fucking hell, could he have stacked rings, mate? Could have had way more than 2. And the 2 he got were hard-earned. Right, after that, I already start to think for S-tier of people like Julius Erving, believe it or not. Steph Curry can be considered. I don't think Dirk. Moses Malone, I just said. I actually just did Moses Malone there, didn't I? Where did I put Moses Malone? Did I not put him on the list? I actually didn't put him on the actual thing. Moses Malone can go there for that. He might get moved down to A, though, because I don't want too many people on S. So we'll move a couple of people down from that to A once we see how the rest of the categories shake out. So let's go and look up, because Bill Russell, I think, is overrated. So if we just look at all these players here. Jokic hasn't had a long enough career yet. Let's just go and look a second at... Who did I say I was going to look up? Julius Erving. Like, the problem Dr. J has, it's probably why he's going to get stuck into A, is he played too much of his career in the ABA, the first period when he was also a very sick player, and won all these MVPs, but the ABA wasn't as good as the NBA, and also I didn't watch the ABA, so it's hard to know what to say about that, even though I'm sure it was still very good players. There were some excellent players there who also came over. Now, in the NBA, he was still cooking. A lot of people don't know how good this guy was. And by the way, this guy's actually a pretty clutch playoff performer. Like, if you go to some of the finals in the NBA, let me go maybe to this one where he lost. I'm going to guess he loses... Oh, I think that's when they lost in 7 games to the Celtics, maybe? Or was this when the Lakers won their second ring? Could be. Lakers won their second ring over him. Watch this. He still shot 54%, had 25 points a game and 8 rebounds. $1981 here. Let's go look at that a second. Again to the Lakers. By the way, one of the great, some people say the greatest team of all time. He had 25 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists on 52% shooting. Again, these are finals MVP numbers. These are chip numbers. So this guy, by the way, could have stacked rings. He won 2, 3 if you count the ABA. He won 1 in the NBA. He could in the NBA have won 4 or 5 rings. He also played he played in the era that was like tennis in the 2000s and 10s, where it's always the same elite people at the end of the tournament. You don't get the fluke ones where you can just easily beat them and win an easy ring, like Federer won on the way out the door with a couple of those ones at like the Australian Open and Wimbledon. It was really hard to win rings and to score, and this guy was a monster scorer. He was even the MVP of the NBA and could have been a bunch of other times. Now, you'll notice he doesn't have many defensive teams, so he's not as much of a two-way player. By the way, very good field goal percentage. Pretty clutch player too, by the way. Very athletic player. Could have taken way more shots. Not that great a rebounder. Oh, no, actually a pretty good rebounder, sorry. I was looking at the wrong one there. Decent for assists, especially for a small forward. Steals is very good. Blocks isn't bad. Obviously, in theory, aside from some fights, a gentleman player too. Just a very good player. Just people didn't watch him play enough, so what are they going to do? So for now, let me see. How much did he play in the NBA? He did play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I feel like, to be fair, I should keep him in here for now. Let me just double check something. Right, technically, Moses Malone also played 1 season in the ABA and didn't play long enough, maybe. But his rebounds are so insane. I feel like he has to be S-tier still. That's the other problem. A lot of the people in the 60s, 70s, 80s played like 10, 12 years. They didn't always get like the 15, 20 because it wasn't the same sports science and they were unlucky. I'll put him here for now. Right, who else am I considering even on this list? Like Charles Barkley's very good. Rick Barry, I might have to look at in a second. He's mega underrated because all the modern day idiots just don't know how good he was. Let's see. That's a true two-way player as well. I think we'll go and look. We'll quickly get Bill Russell out the way, actually. Because the problem with Bill Russell is I didn't watch him play, but the numbers actually are quite disturbing for me if I want him to be really good. Right? How many times did he score 20 points in a season? The answer is 0. But he played in the seasons where Wilt Chamberlain's averaging 30 and even 50. He doesn't even get 20 points in a game. But he gets to win the MVP over Wilt Chamberlain a load of times. He was a 5-time MVP, and they tried to give it to him every season. 0 defensive teams except now. They don't track blocks. Supposedly people say him and Wilt were the best ever at blocks. And he was a mega defensive player, supposedly. Anyone who goes against Wilt Chamberlain, no, not really against Wilt Chamberlain. He could only like slow Wilt down a little bit. He was still scoring bonkers numbers, an average of 50. And Wilt Chamberlain had 50 rebounds against Bill Russell, if you don't know. That's real. But a mega rebounder. Like, along with Wilt, maybe the best rebounder ever. Mega at blocking. Wilt was amazing at blocking shots too, by the way. He famously blocked Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's shot a whole bunch of times, the skyhook. He just didn't shoot enough. And on his teams, here's the real problem. We'll go and look at some of his teams. Let's look at, like, obviously he starts winning rings immediately, but we'll look at some of these. Like, watch these ring-winning teams. He might have been a great glue guy and amazing rebounds, and he still scored okay, but look at the field goal percentage. Guys, look at the field goal percentage. You would laugh in the face of, like, Kobe if he had these field goals. This is a fucking center who's rebounding it back to himself, which does some make up for it. Then look at the regular season. He never scored 50% field goal ever. He's actually an underwhelming offensive player. Then let's look at some of his teams when they're winning the championship, right? Points per game will go by. How come there are 3 people averaging more points per game than him? His rebounds are insane. This is in his prime when he's winning MVPs as well. Points per game. 3 people more points than him. Let's keep going. Points per game. 2 people more points than him. By the way, talk shit on Bob Cousy anymore, motherfucker. He's averaging more points than Bill Russell all these games. This time only Tommy Heinsohn, the Celtics commentator. He's also obviously had a great role-playing career. 2 people ahead of it. He's never the leading scorer on his team, you notice. A whole bunch of people. He's only 29 years old, by the way. How can he only have 15 points but 24 rebounds? By the way, he had an insanely stacked team. 2 people ahead of him. This is when Havlicek's come in as young stud. Still sick for rebounds. I'll just show you just to make the point. Larry Siegfried is averaging more points than him. Give me a break. Even though, let's look this season. Actually, to be fair, they made Wilt the MVP that season. We'll just do this one quickly. It's another Wilt season where he couldn't get to win. 4 people. Bailey Howell. You know Bailey? You know, remember old Bailey Howell? Goat Bailey Howell. Oh, you don't? Where he averages more points on a Celtics team than fucking Bill Russell, who's 32 years old. Bro, this guy is so fucking overrated. But defensively, I do think the defensive side of the ball counts. So I'm going to put him 8 here. But to everyone else that's sacred, he should be fucking top 5. No, he shouldn't. No, he should not. This has already been very long, but I'm going to keep going. I don't know that I'm going to rank everyone, but we'll get through who we can. Right. This is already where I'm going to start hurting feelings because you all know I haven't put Tim Duncan on yet, have I? Woo-hoo-hoo. So here's the problem. When I look at other players here, right, let's have a look at Kawhi. Obviously, he was too injured, so he's probably going to have to go further down. Kawhi Leonard. The main issue here is obviously injuries. Look, he barely ever gets to fucking play a season. But when he does play, and his career's way too short. He's going to be in like B just from this. But in terms of peak play, he had an incredible body for basketball. I mean, he's Defensive Player of the Year. He could have been MVP. He didn't score the ball enough because he didn't even vaguely take enough shots. He is a pretty good player, though. He had a good mid-range, too. Decent three-point shooter. Pretty good three-point shooter at times. Can make his 3 throws. Impressive. Good rebounder. Not as good as I'd want him to be for a small forward, but good rebounder. Assists are just good. Steals are pretty good because he was a very good defensive player, obviously. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. Defensive team a whole bunch of times. Pretty good playoff player. Just doesn't have a long enough career, does he? And doesn't have enough sample size. So I think he was a very good player, but we're going to put him here for now. It could even be maybe B, but we'll see. He was insane in his best seasons. This isn't in order. I'm just picking people out now. Let's look up Steph Curry. Because I do think body of work, just like Karl Malone, should probably put him in the bottom of S tier, maybe. Still hasn't played as many years as you think. But okay, he really gets cooking from here onwards. Obviously, he's not actually as efficient from 2-point as people think. You'd think he'd have 50% more because I'm saying he is from 3. But obviously, if you're him, just take 3-pointers, mate. They scaled it up and he proved he could do it. Thorin, thanks for subscribing again. Changed the game, but as in, he's the only one who can actually do this. Like, even people like Durant and that can't really scale up to this level and do this, I don't think. Only Steph Curry can scale up to this degree and actually hit this kind of percentage. Like, he hits the best percentage of a person who's doing really careful shots running off screens, like Reggie Miller, but he does it with just, like, contested threes. That's why you knew he would repeat. Obviously, a mega 3-throw shooter, one of the best ever. Not that crazy a point guard, considering he plays point guard. Like, where are his 10 assist seasons? Remember, he had seasons where he had Clay, he had fucking Durant. Bro, this is fucking sick if you want to score. Actually, slightly overrated passer. because he was more about scoring as a point guard, but a very good scoring point guard. Steals are pretty good, but not as good as you'd want, where the defensive teams, because he didn't put in the effort enough on that one, and he's small, let's be real. How many pounds did he weigh when he came in the league? Fucking hell, 185 pounds. So a very good player, but I think he's going to be, let me see, how many years? Like Karl Malone, that can still get you S tier, but you're low S tier. You're low S tier for that one. Maybe they should be ahead of that. I mean, I was given that because of rings, but we'll put him there for now. Then we're going to go, let's look up Tim Duncan, because he has to be there. No, you know what? Before Tim Duncan, we're looking up Charles Barkley, because he is one of my favourite players of all time. By the way, I haven't done the point guards intentionally, because I am biased towards scorers, so I'm going to put them, but there's going to be a lot of A tiers for them. By the way, when we're talking about best players in a 75-year league, A tier is no diss whatsoever. Grow the fuck up. Right? This guy, if you don't know, he led the league as a 6'6", and people say that is exaggerated. He's more like 6'4". A 6'4", fat, not really. He was actually very athletic when he first came in. He got fat at the end of the Suns period. But heavy, rotund, small forward and power forward. He's 6'4", 6'5", going up with the giants at power forward and fucking centre, and he's getting the ball off them. And then he also shoots an insane 2-point percentage. And look at this. Even in his most abusive years at the Suns, he never gets close to 20 shots a game. And at the Sixers, where I think he's mega underrated, one of the most underrated players ever at the Sixers, he is shooting not enough times because he's playing with stud scorers and players, some of the best players in the NBA. And he's doing that with insane field goal percentage. And then he leads the NBA at the Sixers, 5 seasons in a row, he leads in field goal percentage from 2-point as a 6'4" man. Free throw shooter, not bad. Not bad. Sadly, he was a terrible 3-point shooter, and especially later in his career in the Suns, he insisted on shooting 1,000,000 threes that he missed. He could only ever get streaky. It's really sad. Won the MVP once. He actually should have won it this time. Watch. This is the time he got the most MVP votes. He had 38 MVP votes for first, but because fuckers voted Magic Johnson or Michael second on theirs when they put only Michael or Magic, he didn't win despite having the most first place votes. Magic Johnson, oh sorry, I got it the wrong way around. Michael Jordan didn't, in that case, Michael Jordan didn't steal one. It was Magic Johnson that stole this one when he was 13. He shouldn't actually won that one for my money. This guy could have been 2 or 3 time MVP. NBA first team, look how many times, a whole bunch. Yeah, he got injured, if you don't know. From about here onwards, he keeps getting injured, especially around the playoffs. But I still think this might actually be an S-tier player. Amazing rebounder, especially offensively. Very good from 2-point, like I say, basically unstoppable. If you don't know, he also could have done more of this, but they changed the rules in the NBA. Before Charles Barkley, a 6'4" guy going low block, they used to have a rule where if you back someone down, it's up to you, just keep going. Because he could just keep backing you down and bumping you and backing you down and bumping you and always get to the basket, then turn around and score, they literally made that rule where you have, what is it, like the 5 seconds to back someone down or something like that, 3 seconds or something. I can't remember what it is. There's some sort of a rule about how long you can take to back someone down just to stop him, just like they did rules to stop Wilt Chamberlain scoring. Like that famous thing Wilt Chamberlain said to Michael Jordan, Michael, they had to make rules and ref calls to let you dominate. They had to make rule changes and ref calls to stop me from dominating. That's gangster. This guy's a mad underrated player. Him and Karl Malone, who both funny enough play, I think they're better than Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan just has more longevity and a way better team and has a way more unselfish mentality. These are dominant scorers. Tim Duncan wasn't, but he's maybe, you could argue he's a better defensive player than both, though. This guy wasn't much of a defensive player, and Charles Barkley didn't even try in defense. So I'm going to put him S for now, but I'll consider bumping him down. I'll consider at the end chucking some of these down. We're going to see how many people, because we can't have 1 million people in S tier, can we? Then we're going to go, we will look up the aforementioned Tim Duncan. Are you ready for some more sacrilege? My eye test always told me Kevin Durant was better than Tim Duncan. Yeah, that hurts your feelings, doesn't it? So we'll look up Kevin Durant first. Kevin Garnett, sorry. Kevin Garnett, especially in the Minnesota, was a fucking demon, mate. First of all, he doesn't take close to enough shots. But he's still a good, if you don't know, he wasn't, despite the fact he's listed as power forward and sometimes playing centre, he wasn't playing really close to the basket. He used to shoot an unbelievable, look, it was a frozen rope, but like a 12 to 14 foot shot. He was really good. Really good. Obviously, you should never have attempted a 3-pointer. It's whatever. Free throw shooter, not bad, actually. Not bad for this role. Better than LeBron, by the way. Defensively, he was pretty good at blocks. Good at steals, underrated defensive player. Very, very good. Defensive first team loads of times. Could have won Defensive Player of the Year, I think. Pretty good rebounder. Good offensive rebounder, not crazy, but good rebounder generally. And people don't know how good he was in Minnesota. They just didn't have the teams, boys. And they had to run through the Lakers, etc. He's a stud. Can score very well. This is the era where 20 points is like 30 points now. It's hard to score like that. Yes, from the Celtics onwards, he gave up scoring because he had Ray Allen to shoot three-pointers, and Paul Pierce is a better actual like offensive player in terms of scoring and has an amazing bag. So, of course, he took a secondary role and just focused on defense to win rings because you all told him this doesn't count because he hadn't won rings. So he goes, okay, I'll do what it takes to win rings. And he go, yeah, but you did have a super team, though. And obviously, he got mega injured around this time. Like, I always wonder if they'd have had the 3 Lakers-Celtics finals like they should have here in 2009 as well, if he hadn't have gotten injured. I always wonder what could have happened in that one, but sadly, he was injured that season. Very, very good player. I'm going to put him S tier for the moment, just to hurt everyone's feelings. Now we will look up Tim Duncan. By the way, I could even argue maybe fucking Dirk Nowitzki's better than Tim Duncan. Oh, I keep forgetting to do these other ones, don't I? Let me just go back to here. Steph Curry was obviously 2-time scoring champ. That's underrated. 4-time champion. 2-time MVP. Why doesn't it say... Oh, he is finals MVP once. I think he should have been finals MVP twice. If they'd ever had Western Conference MVPs, by the way, Kobe would have won every single one of his career, except like... No, he would have won every single one of his career, I believe. So he would have had like 7 Western Conference MVPs, and he played in a harder division. LeBron also played in the Eastern Conference, the easy Eastern Conference, the majority of his career, when all the talent kept moving from Eastern Conference teams to Western Conference teams and making a stacked top 7 to 8 teams over in the Western Conference. He was the Steals champion in 2016. Actually an underrated career. Then we go to Charles Barkley, rebound champion, MVP, 11-time All-NBA. Then we'll do Kevin Garnett, 4-time rebound champion, 9-time All-NBA, NBA champion, 12-time All-Defense, and MVP of the league. Back in the prime of Tim Duncan, Kobe, Shaq, fucking monster, T-Mac, demons of the league. Kevin, what's his name? Fucking Jason Kidd. There was some demons playing back then, mate. Very, very sick player. Now we'll do Tim Duncan, because I promised I would do that now. So Tim Duncan, 5-time champion. Those aren't 5 as the main carry, though. Those aren't 5 as the main carry. Oh, by the way, for people who don't know, fuck, I should have done that on Charles Barkley. This doesn't need to be all right. I can possibly edit this together later too, by the way. Let's go to the finals he lost. Because, by the way, look in the playoffs. What a fucking demon. This is unbelievable. He's cooking. He averaged 51% in the playoffs for his whole career and 23 points and 12 rebounds, 3 assists. This is sick. But anyway, I want to quickly show you the finals he lost to Michael Jordan. First of all, it might be the greatest finals Michael Jordan ever played. 41 points on 50% shooting. Are you fucking kidding me? This is impossible to beat. Then you go to here. His numbers would be MVP, a good finals MVP for anyone else. 47% from the field. Decent free throws, 27 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. And he was injured in these finals. Just sick. Then let's go back to Tim Duncan. Obviously was a 2-time MVP, 3-time finals MVP. Well, that's weird. 5 titles, but only 3 finals MVPs. Almost like it wasn't just him, but we'll get into that. What's funny is, obviously he was MVP, 15-time All-Defensive. Earned, deserved, was very good. Wasn't like a lockdown, but very good at rim protection, etc. 15 times All-NBA, partly due to longevity, but was really good too. 2-time MVP. Right, if we go down to here, the problem here is this. Tim Duncan also chose not to be a demon. In his early years, like let's say, I would say 98 when he comes in the league, because he's also an amazing player from day one, 98 through to, I think 2006 for me, 2005 maybe. This era, he was very good individually. He was extremely good. Look at the scoring, like fucking rebounds. He can assist a bit. He can block the fuck out of shots. He's just a resource. He's getting really good field goal percentage. In the playoffs, he's a demon with blocks. This finals is unbelievable that he has here. He's deservedly finals MVP. Probably deservedly finals MVP for this one. Or was it this one he was the finals? These must be the 3 he was finals MVP for. He obviously wasn't for this one. Wait a second. Who was for this one? Who the fuck was for this one? Was it really Tim Duncan? Because it was, well, surely it was Tony Parker. Yes, it must have been. That was against LeBron. It's actually debatable for me if he was the finals MVP for 2005. Let me have a look here. This is the one where he actually had some like scuffed games in the finals. So he does get it. It's a good stat line, but 20 points, yeah, it's still hard to score at that time. Let me have a look. Wasn't this the one where Manu Ginobili was really good? Yeah, that's the problem I have. Look, I guess the rebounds help and the blocks help, but I thought Manu Ginobili was really good in this finals. And I also don't even think the Spurs should have won. Like I said, Robert Horry just did a miracle game 5, I think it was. Look what Robert Horry does in game 5. 2 for 2. And in the fourth quarter, 13 points and 5 points. Meanwhile, Tim Duncan is doing 7 points and 0 points. But he gets to win a ring. I think the Pistons were the better team that year, but the NBA had already begun nerfing the rules. So I think Tim Duncan's a bit overrated, a la LeBron, for longevity, and the fact that he's on winning teams over and over and over. If you don't know, I think the Spurs is the best run organisation. The Celtics in history is the best run, then maybe the Lakers in terms of winning championships. But if you want to go min-maxing and being a small market, the Spurs might be the best run. Like the R.C. Bruford guy and Greg Popovich are gods. And Greg Popovich also might be the best coach in the history of the NBA. If we're talking X's and O's, unbelievable. He has all of that. And then he has, because he has a forward-thinking coach, mega underrated min-max European players. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. Think of all the role players they brought in over the years and made work. Then they later had Kawhi at the end of his career to get him his last ring. Could have even had 2, obviously. But the problem is, at this point, especially 2009 onwards, he's not even a 20-point per game scorer. And we're already getting to the point where the Kobe's and them are like 25 to 30 points a game. His game just drops off massively. Even his shooting drops off a bit. Also wasn't a good free throw shooter. Kevin Garnett, way better. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's a better free throw shooter. He's played a lot of his career at centre. And I'll tell you what, early on, David Robertson was a monster, but yeah, he fell off a little bit in the latter period, obviously. The blocks are, the defensive side is obviously a big part. Being a two-way player is big. So look, I will say, you know what, Tim Duncan, you can be in S tier because of the defensive side of the ball. But that might be the end of S tier. Let's just have a look a second. By the way, there's obviously some people aren't on this list. I'm just going off whoever they put on this list. I'm not doing it aside from that. Oh my God, I've almost been doing 2 hours. Right, I'll keep going now. We'll maybe speed it up a little bit. I can't go ham on every single person. Right, if I'm looking at these, I'm immediately thinking I'll look at Tim Duncan and Dwayne Wade, but then I've really got to look at either some of the modern people and what they've actually done, really old people like that, and then I've got to look at some of the point guards, because I haven't got point guards in here except Magic Johnson at the moment. So I'll quickly look at Dirk Nowitzki, who I obviously saw play his whole career. Quite an underrated player, actually, in the early days. This period onwards, he is fucking cooking. He's really good. He's even good in the playoffs. It's just they have this playoff here where he gets injured and it ruins it. I think he maybe even got injured in this playoff. And they were in position to go to the Western Conference Finals. They were already good with Steve Nash at this point in time. So, mega scorer. Could have taken more shots too. Very good three-point shooter. It's just that in that era, they didn't know to scale it up, so he never did. If he scaled it up, doesn't have to be Steph Curry, even Durant's done in his career, could have scored way more, could have been a 30-point per game scorer. He won the MVP, which he did have very good numbers. He had a 50, 40, 90 season where his team had the most wins. He had like 69 wins or whatever, so fair play. NBA first team a bunch of times, but he was competing with Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett in the same fucking conference, so it's pretty sick. Remember, he plays power forward most of his career. Mega shooter, obviously. Pretty good rebounder, but mainly defensively. Decent assists. Didn't really play enough defense for me. That's why he's not on the defensive teams, which means he's not really a two-way player. And at least to this point in his career, he could be a little bit of a pussycat in the big game in the playoffs, unfortunately. And definitely got bullied in 2007 by the Warriors and by the Heat in the finals, in my opinion. Just got bullied. But I thought later he became a lot sturdier. The problem also you had was the Mavs did a good job in like the first, let's say the first 10 years of his career of putting people around him. Then I thought they had a bunch of roster. Like the one they won in 2011, they didn't even have a sick roster. It was old people and cheap players. Jason Kidd was old as fuck at that time. I guess Peja Stojakovic was pretty good at the end though. In the latter part of his career, it's a disgrace some of the teams they put around him. I think it's actually a piss take, the teams they put around him in the latter. He could have still potentially won rings around here, by the way, but they just didn't put good enough teams around him. So still a very good player. Look at that longevity though. Just offensively. All right, here's what we're going to do. Just offensively, it feels like he should be there. But he's not a two-way player. And I can't have too many S-tier players. So maybe later I'll punish people who either don't have the rings or don't have the defensive side of the game and put them in B tier. In A tier, rather. Right, let's look at some of these others. So Dwayne Wade we'll look up now. It's because his name's spelled all fucked up, isn't it? Probably is. I mean, along with Julius Erving, the third best shooting guard ever. By the way, Jerry West, I guess, has to be in that category too. Top 5. He's top 5 of all time. He was really, really good. Also could have been more selfish. Could also have won an extra ring with LeBron, but LeBron failed it. Then again, I guess he was kind of a bit more dodgy himself and injured the next season, so maybe that works out. Chose not to be very selfish late in his career, had injury problems, unfortunately. Al also had a hard time ever hitting 80 games. That's a punishment problem. Free throw shooting, not as good as I want it to be. I will deduct points for that. Not a good three-point shooter and shouldn't have taken as many, even though he didn't take loads. Shouldn't really have taken many. Pretty good slasher, though. Much better slasher than shooter. His mid-range was never that sick. You know what? The more I think about it, wasn't that sick a defensive player. He only has a few times he makes defensive teams and their second teams, you'll notice. Doesn't win an MVP, probably justifiably so. I think actually this looks more like an A player. So the question is, does Dirk go down there with him? I feel like he does. Because he's a little bit more of a puss in the playoffs for me. I feel like he does go down there. You know what? I think I'm eventually going to come back and toss a lot of these guys in a way and maybe only put like GOAT contenders in S. So we'll come back to that one. Right, we'll do... Should we just go in order for these? Just to bang them all out? Right, Giannis. Let's see. Right, obviously he hasn't had a long enough career yet, but you look at his career already. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years. Very good shooting for 9 of them. Obviously really good from the field. Shouldn't even ever shoot three-pointers, but he does for some silly reason. Actually all right free throw shooting in context, but I'd still like it to be a bit better. Pretty good rebounder, but a lot of it's defensive. Assists are pretty good, though. You got to give him credit for that. He did sometimes, like a point guard, bring the ball up and then pass. Blocks are just decent. I'd expect them to be better for someone who, in theory, looks like a centre, but he's obviously a mega athletic power forward, isn't he? MVP, deservedly so. Could have won it more times than that, by the way. Defensive Player of the Year and MVP at the same time. That's pretty sick. The problem is he hasn't played long enough, so we're going to put him 8 here for now. At the end of his career, he has fallen off a little bit for some people. Not for me. I think he's still mega. His team's just not as good. They got rid of some of the players that won the championship. Can still get into S tier. Probably can't be the GOAT. Can probably still get into S tier, though. We'll just go in order, shall we? I think Allen Iverson's hella overrated. He is good in the sense that for his frame, he's unbelievable. He's one of the best small men ever. 6 feet, 165 pounds. Pretty good volume scorer, but not an excellent one. Look at these seasons. He had a 39%. Look at that. He won the MVP. Probably shouldn't because he shot 42% and was mega selfish. And what they did on that team was just put loads of players around him who were rebounders, just dirty, do all the fucking dirty work type fuckers doing the rebounder type shit. But he was a very good scorer. He was a decent assist man. Got better in this later era when he played more point guard. Wasn't a good rebounder for obvious reasons. Very good at steals though. Very good steals. Non-existent blocks. 3-point shooter. He's another person who shouldn't have taken so many. He tossed a lot of bricks. This guy's one of the biggest chuckers ever, by the way. Mega chucker. Definitely had a bad attitude, it seems like. Wasn't a good enough free throw shooter for me, considering he plays shooting guard. And he got a fucking MVP. That was the one season he shot well from free throw. Playoffs, he was kind of a bit up and down. He has good numbers here, but you see, he's having some pretty shitty times. This is only because he played 5 games. He's got assists like that. He only has a few runs. And by the way, absolutely in this one, could have lost twice. Like if you don't know, this season he made it to the finals. First of all, they had no business winning the finals. But look, he could have lost to the Raptors. That was the one where Vince Carter didn't hit that buzzer beater at the end. And he could have lost to Ray Allen's Bucks with, I think, Glenn Big Dog Robinson. That was a really close one too. So a little bit of an overrated player for me, I'm afraid. And didn't get the longevity because sadly the trades didn't work out after Denver. Even though they were a 50-win team there. And then he just kind of was being a bit of a petulant dickhead at the end and could have extended his career but didn't. So I think I've got to say, first thoughts is Allen Iverson goes B. Isaiah Thomas, conversely, is underrated because everyone just goes, he's just mad at, my God, Michael Jordan, and because he wouldn't shake his hand and he should just kiss Michael Jordan's ring and bumhole because Michael Jordan is the GOAT. So if you are the GOAT and you win, then you have to say, no. This guy's team, look, he didn't beat Michael Jordan, but his teams beat Michael Jordan many times. So actually, he doesn't have to lick Michael Jordan's bunghole, you fucking arsehole. He was a sick player. Like, this is an era where scoring 20 points, especially the point guard's really hard. Look how many times he's 18 points or above. If you don't know, his career was ended early by injuries when he was only 32. This guy was a phenomenal... There's a reason he was an all-star every year, by the way, except that last one. He's even actually getting the 80-game seasons. over and over and over again. I showed you on that last one how few games the other guy got. He doesn't win an MVP for obvious reasons. NBA first team a few times in an era with Magic Johnson plays, where fucking John Stockton plays later on. I guess Jason Kidd didn't come till later. So I'm immediately thinking B, but I'm also thinking maybe A. Because another thing about him is very longevity's not there as much as I want. But by the way, mega assist man. Just an okay, not a very good rebounder to be fair. Because he's quite small, wasn't he? 6'1", 180 pounds. Another very, by the way, you might argue he's better than Allen Iverson's a small man. Another mega steals player. Mega playoff performer, by the way. Look at these playoff numbers. Also decent free throw shooter all in all. Not as good as I'd like for a backcourt player, but not terrible. Maybe I'd like that to be a bit better. I'm going to maybe put him at, I don't know. I can't have too many people here too. We're going to bump some people down. Right? Elgin Baylor, obviously I saw fuck all of him playing. But his numbers were mega. The problem is his shooting percentage is what costs him. Also, Isaiah Thomas wasn't... Actually, let me go back. Was Isaiah Thomas on the defensive team? No, never on the defensive team either. It's not a two-way player enough. Elgin Baylor. Let's just go to that second. He was the assist champion though. All-NBA, two-time champion. By the way, he should have been a three-time champion for my money. He should have won that year that the Lakers nicked it in 1988. Finals MVP one time. Well earned. Elgin Baylor, 10-time All-NBA. That's it. The problem here is this. MVP conversation many times. The points are amazing. People say it like, look at this, he's a monster in terms of scoring, athletic moves, dunks, moves in the air body control was supposedly sick. He's got very good rebounding numbers. He's even assisting the ball. Field goal percentage is where it suffers. Look how many times it's low. Look at this. Look at this. Bruh. This is killing us. You're killing me inside. Meanwhile, by the way, he's taken loads of seasons where he has a million shots. Look at the field goal attempts. 29 field goals. That's mental. 33 field goal attempts. So unfortunately, as a volume scorer, very good. NBA all first team a whole bunch of times. But I'm sorry, you're going to have to go into the B tier. Like, it's just... You're one of the reasons your team lost. You're one of the reasons Jerry West lost for me. Also, I think he was a little bit of a playoff choker. I think he had some finals. He had some dodgy-ass numbers in. Steve Nash. People know I'm not really a fan. I mean, I am. I enjoy the way he plays the game. I love point guards. It's fabulous. But he's not like a dominant player for me. First of all, there's no way you should win these MVPs for this reason. You're winning an MVP with 15 points per game in the two. Get the fuck out of my face. The assists are mega. Yeah, he was an amazing assister. He wasn't a good rebounder all in all. He was okay. I guess if I said Isaiah was okay, he's okay as well. Steals aren't really that good either. Where's the defense? Where is the defense? This is just an all offense that's just run back the other way guy. That's why he's probably going to end up in B. Yeah, field goal percentage is mega. Barely any fucking shots taken. Mega three-point shooter should have scaled up. If I could scale this guy up and make him watch Steph Curry now, then he maybe would be an MVP level player, but he wasn't back then. Mega free throw shooter, one of the best of all time. So I feel like he's a B player for me. Let's see. David Robinson. People also don't understand how sick he was early in his career and that he had a shorter career than he could have had because he chose to go to the military. And then he retired at the end because of injuries, I think. Scoring champion, block champion, rebound champion. Like, these are different years. So rebounds in 1991, he has the most. Blocks the most in 92. Scoring champion in 93, 94. Fucking hell, boys. Two-time NBA champion, but that's because of Tim Duncan in part. 8-time all-defense. Two-way player's going to get you up there. 10-time all-NBA. MVP of the league. And rookie player of the year and defensive player of the year. This guy is a stud. So the main problem is not that many years in his career, right? Didn't play because of military service in his early 20s. Comes in the league, a god immediately. Mega scorer until the time Tim Duncan came and then his game fell off because of injuries. Really good field goal percentage. Can make his free throws, but not insane. But again, playing centre, that's fine. Good rebounder, very good at times. Mega with blocks, obviously. Good at steals too. Two-way player. I actually think he feels like that for me. Longevity's not as crazy. In the playoffs, very good. Now, admittedly, he wasn't as good in this part, and he did have a little bit of chalk in his guts. So maybe that moves him to there. But does it, though? He's a two-way player. I think being a two-way player gets you in there. Clyde Drexler, another player, I think. By the way, loads of players are underrated because half you morons only talk about rings and fucking Michael Jordan. And you never watched Michael Jordan play, most of you, so you just talk bollocks the whole time. This guy's fucking unbelievable. The problem is he played in the era of Michael Jordan. What a mega scorer this guy was. Graceful, skilled, fucking can shoot the three. Not a lot of people did back then, but can shoot the three. Probably shouldn't have shot it that much early on, but he didn't shoot very often. He just wasn't good at it. Never came close to being greedy. Maybe a couple of years back here in Portland. Was in a couple of finals, if you don't remember, with Portland. 1990, 1992. Then he won with Houston later and still was very good in that one, even though it was mainly Hakeem Olajuwon. Look at these years when he's not winning. What more am I supposed to do? It's a pretty good playoff performer, if people don't know. Had the odd choke, but very good playoff performer. These are just really good numbers. 5-time All-NBA. I think I'm going to put Clyde Drexler into A tier for now. Very good player. I'll consider bumping in a B in a minute. I forgot Rick Barry. Oh, it's because I'm going in order. Right, John Stockton now. John Stockton's underrated and overrated. He's underrated in the sense that he was a mega player in terms of like defense, passing. He's even a decent three-point shooter. The problem was he didn't shoot enough, and that's an issue. Oh, amazing longevity too. Defensive team a whole bunch of times. All NBA, 1 and 2. Decent scorer. Obviously very good numbers. Imagine if he didn't know what Steph Curry knows now about what you can do from three-point land, by the way. Free throws, pretty fucking good. Assists, amazing. Amazing. Way better than LeBron at assisting. Amazing. Steals, insane. Rebound, not particularly good, but that's because he's 6'1", white guy, 170 pounds. Playoffs, he's pretty good. Look at these numbers in the playoffs. But he also did have a little bit of chalk in him for me. It's just such a long career as well. Sadly, he was on the bench a few of these years. So where am I going to put this guy? I'm feeling like I'm putting him in A initially, but we're going to move some people down later. Rick Barry is probably going to be A, but it's someone who could have been an S. Now we're going to do these other players. So the first one I'm thinking immediately of is Rick Barry. I'm looking at all these guys here. Let me have a look who there is. I'm thinking I'm going to do... I think I started going in alphabetical just from here, didn't I? So I'm going to do Rick Barry. Yeah, I did because I did Steve Nash did. So I'm going to do Rick Barry. A very great player. His problem was that he played some time in the ABA, which wasn't as good. Right, watch this. So remember, he started out playing the era Wilt played and then played right through the era of all Kareem and all people like that. He was a small forward who was 6'7" and weighed 205 pounds. This guy is a fucking beast and one of the best shooters ever. And a clutch player. Right, look how many times. Look, he plays in the ABA here. What he does is he plays in the NBA where he's just sick at 22. Goes to the ABA, carries. Could have been the MVP a whole bunch of all time. He's always first team. Comes back to the NBA and he wins the title in 75 with numbers like this. 91% from the free throw line. Let's see. Field goal percentage, 44%. And they didn't track three-point percentage, unfortunately, back then. But you see in this like playoffs in the ABA, he had 50% from three, shooting 4.5. Again, that's impossible, by the way. That's insane. That's like Curry level. A very good playoff performer too. He just didn't have enough years overall to be goated. Could have won a bunch of other times too. Just he was playing the era of some of the best teams of all time. Had a 64-point game in his career, 25 rebound game, 19 assist game in his career. Let's look at the 64-point game, shall we? You know it's going to be some cracked out box score where he like scored all the fucking... Oh, he only made 30 out of 45 field goals, guys. 66% shooting on 45 attempts. Because if you don't know, he is one of the best free throw shooters of all time. And he could do it normally, but then he also did the underhand technique and he even told people like, Shaq, if you do this, you'll improve your free throw shooting. And they were like, I don't want to look, we all know the word he would have said, I don't want to look lame though, so I'd rather miss looking cool. And then as a result, only won 4 championships. Rick Barry gave you the secret, dickhead, to probably win like 8 to 10 championships, but you weren't listening. A mega player, just didn't have as long a career. Free throw shooting is insane. That's why they didn't give him many free throws, and he was an outside shooter. I told you I look down on people who have bad free throw shooting. Took a lot of shots and made a lot of shots. Look at this. Obviously, he played in an era with more possession since he can take more shots. All NBA, a whole bunch of times first team. MVP candidate a few seasons. Just you play in the era where Kareem wins it every year, mate. So like I say, I think he's mega. I think I'm probably going to put him A tier because of the lack of longevity. I think he easily goes A tier for me. Right, we're just going to go in order, I think. Chris Paul, I think is underrated because he doesn't have a ring and people think he's a playoff choker. But I also think some of his best seasons, his teams just weren't good enough to go far enough in the playoffs. He's a really clutch player for my money. He's one of the only modern day point guards I actually think deserves the name along with Steve Nash. But this guy's also a really good scoring point guard. I always wished he took more shots because he's actually a very good shooter. Not an insane three-point shooter, but a good three-point shooter. And at times, very good. He makes his free throws. His assists game is very, very good. He's one of the best passers in the NBA. And he's a better passer than LeBron, put it that way. Very good at steals. Sadly, he's a very dirty player as well. Understandably can't block anything because he's fucking, 5 foot now? Nah, he's 6'0", 175 pounds. Very tough player, but also a prick. Should have averaged 20 points a season, but he didn't attempt it as much. Didn't attempt enough shots. Could have been an MVP once or twice. Shouldn't really have been in these seasons, but he deserved to be in the conversation. Crucially, plays defense. All defensive first team a whole bunch of times. NBA first or second team a whole bunch of times. Not really in the conversation for defensive player of the year. Tend to give that to players who do blocks. But a good defender all the same. So I'm going to put him fairly high. I'm actually going to... Fucking hell. I'll have to edit that part of the video because unfortunately I can't show that site when I put it on YouTube, can I? I'm probably going to put him in... Like, I think he's better than all these guys here. Does he deserve to go A tier, though? He did win fuck all championships, which is a problem. Everyone here's won championship, except John Stockton. And I did put Carmelo up here. I'll put him A for now, but I'm going to consider moving him. I don't know. I do feel like he's an A tier. I thought he was a very good player. If he had rings, he probably could be S tier, like low tier. I thought he was he's the most underrated player of this generation, along with probably Carmelo Anthony and then Kevin Durant, because people don't even put him in a GOAT conversation of this era, like fucking hell. Patrick Ewing was a good player, but he was slightly gassed because he played for New York, and his jumper wasn't quite as good as it needed to be, unfortunately. I'll show you. But he didn't have enough help in the Knicks, is the problem. The only reason they almost won a title is because, one, they pushed Jordan's Bulls in the early 90s far, so they could have won those years. And then against the Rockets were underpowered that year. If you notice, he only has a few defensive second teams. His blocks aren't even that crazy, except for like 1 or 2 seasons compared to like a Hakeem Olajuwon. Steals are just all right. I mean, for a center, that's pretty good. Assists, not really that great. Rebounds are good, but not crazy. They're pretty good in general, because it's the 90s. It's hard to work for rebounds, I guess. He is a good point scorer. I hate that fucking shit take from idiot Bill Simmons, the casual, who you can't say he's a casual, obviously, he's just a moron, in my opinion, who goes, the Ewing effect, you lose your best player. He wasn't your best player that season, dumb fuck. He's averaging 15 points. Allen Houston was already the best. He's only taking 12 shots a game. He's not even getting 10 rebounds. He's getting 1.4 blocks. How dare you say that that's your best player and that you were better without your best player? You dumb fuck. But he was overrated is the problem. He played in an era of centres. And look, where's his 60% seasons? Just slightly overrated in my opinion. It wasn't bad in the playoffs, but I also did feel like he had a lot of letdowns. So I'm probably going to put Pat Ewing here, A tier. Havlicek is one of the reasons also why Bill Russell is overrated. Because if you don't think this guy's one of the best ever, I mean, look, he's playing in Bill Russell's era. He's scoring more points than in most of the seasons. Makes a couple of All-NBA second teams because this was the era of goated people and like 8 teams in the league. You go down, he's making All-NBA first team in the 70s when he takes over as the main star. He's making defensive teams first and second. He's getting up there in some MVP conversations, but he's not winning MVP. Look at the points he's averaging in the 70s as a small forward. 6'5", 203 pounds. His assists are pretty good. He's got an all-round game, small forward. Played shooting guard sometimes. Rebounds are very good for that position. Attempts a lot of shots, makes a lot of shots, decent shooting percentage. Makes his free throws. Great playoff performer. He was one of the people denying Jerry Rest, etc. Just a very good player. Won a bunch of rings with the Celtics there. Admittedly, some of these are shitter field goal, but also a lot of people said worse field goal percentage back then. I think Havlicek is going to go, I feel like A tier for now. We'll consider what to do later. Now's a hard one, which is Scottie Pippen. Because he's only either insanely overrated, where people are like, yeah, but Michael had Scottie. And it's like, they weren't a true 1A, 1B, because Michael Jordan is so good. But with any other star, almost, it could have been a 1A, 1B scenario. Pippen's defense is underrated. He's one of the best defensive players of all time, and a candidate for GOAT defensive player for real. His offensive game was a little bit overrated, but was very good in the early 90s into the mid-90s. And so as a result, he either gets treated like a role player, which he isn't, or a sidekick, or he gets treated like he was just God himself, which is like, nah, give me a break. I was a very big Scottie Pippen fan. Beautiful game, point forward. 6'8", 210 pounds. Right, the 90s is where 20 points is what the best players average, by the way. He did that a whole bunch of seasons. Decent field goal percentage, but if you remember his game, there was a lot of like full court, like going fast up and down, pass the ball back and forwards, get it easy for a layup. His shooting wasn't that crazy. He had times he was a good 3-point shooter at the time, but not an amazing one. Just a good one. He attempted quite a lot. Probably too many, in my opinion. He should have passed it to people like Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc more. His free throws are sus. He's LeBron-esque in that sense. That was always a problem for me. Right, assists aren't as crazy as you probably think when you hear point forward. But then again, Michael Jordan had the ball in his hands a lot of the time too. He just brought it up and then passed it to Michael Jordan. Still very good though, for his position. Rebounds, pretty good early on. Not as good later because he had injuries with his back from like the ladder 3-peat onward, like 97 onwards, he was pretty injured. Steals, very good, especially before he got injured because he was just a fucking lockdown defender with that great wingspan. Blocks are all right for the position. Doesn't get many fouls. Here's where it gets interesting. A lot of people won't know this. He's making defensive teams loads of times. First of him, look at these two things. He's making loads of defensive first teams. So that's going to get you very high on my list, at least A tier probably. Then, he's not only number 3 MVP candidate for 93, but he was number 5 in 96. And then here's where it gets interesting. Defensive Player of the Year, he never won it, but he was 3rd, 4th, 2nd, 4th. And also, by the way, when he even left and was in the Rockets, which wasn't even that good a team, he was 7th. And then Portland, he was 8th. So when he was semi-washed, he was still one of the best defensive players making defensive teams. Oh, he didn't have Michael Jordan at this time, did he? Actually, an underrated player if people aren't the ones who are just idiots saying he's the best. So I do think a very good player. Could be a little bit of a playoff choker at times. Let's go and look here. See what I mean? There's also a world, by the way, where he wins in Portland here if the rest of the team just takes care of it. Like he was hitting like buzzer beaters and shit and playing very well. He could have won that ring and won a ring without Jordan. He wouldn't have been the star, but he'd have been like the floor general, if you know what I mean. He was obviously taking way less shots at that era. Like I said, at not 3-point shooters, he shot too many sometimes. Because he had a bad back, he didn't want to go down low and get elbowed. Even so, though. I mean, he only played 4 games there, to be fair. Amazing for steals in the playoffs, though. So we're going to put this guy immediately in A tier. This was Bob Pettit, who a lot of you aren't going to know. He was one of the first MVPs. He's a great player. He had a really good jump shot, which was rare for people who were power forward and centre. 6'9", 205 pounds. Remember, people weren't as heavy back then in general as they're monsters. Players from the 50s to the 60s. He won the MVP twice. He was an NBA champion once over the Celtics, by the way. Let's watch this. Bill Russell's Celtics. He won 4-2 against them. Let's look what Bob Pettit did in the series. 29 points, 17 rebounds. Made 58 field goals. Bill Russell, 23-year-old Bill Russell, made 17 field goals, 14.5 points and 19.3 rebounds on 37% shooting. My guy had 42%, and you see the percentages are low because people are taking more shots. And he made his free throws for a centre. In the playoffs almost every year, you'll notice, because it's an 8-team league and he's mega. Absolute fucking beast, by the way. Look at these points. Now look at the rebounds. Insane. Not even a bad free throw shooter for a centre. You might think bad field goal percentage, but this is one. There's no three-point line, and this is where he's taken a bunch of jump shots as well. He's playing power forward a bunch of his career. So actually, that's totally fine for the era. In fact, let's have a look. Let's look at a random year. We'll pick one where he has like 44%. So 1960, we'll say. Right, league average field goal percentage in the 60s was 43.2. So he's around league average for much, but he's taken loads of shots. This is playoffs. This is a regular season. Had a 57-point game, a 35-rebound game, and had a 10-assist game as a centre and power forward, by the way. By the way, pay for this site if you... I'll probably pay for it soon. I just never got round to it. Yeah, that was where he made 25. Look at some of these mega games he has, by the way, these carry games. Holy fuck. This guy's sick. Look at the field goal percentage in the best ones. My God. What a monster. Rebounds. Fucking hell, bruh. One of the most underrated players of all time. I'm going to put him in A tier. People who watch the 60s probably would say he's in S tier. I'd take someone out, but I didn't watch the 60s, so I'm just putting him in A tier for now. James Harden. If you were listening earlier, you'll know I'm a bit critical of James Harden, aren't I? I think he's someone who's a bit overrated. I do think he was a very good carry, and I didn't mind the seasons where he had all the injuries and he had to do it. But, by the way, he obviously could have won rings just on the Thunder as like a secondary or third piece. I think he fucked up his career towards the end, even though he actually played a pretty good last playoffs for the Sixers. No, it wasn't Sixers. Fuck, who was it? Clippers. There you go. He played like shit for the Sixers. This guy is kind of a bomb in the playoffs, I've got to say. I also will just point out, what spoils him for me, but I'm still going to rank him based on it anyway, is he does get to cheat in a way all these other great players don't. Like Reggie Miller can't take like 4 steps back and carry the ball and then take a shot and then the defense can't get to you. Like, that is bullshit in my opinion. So I'm already feeling like, scoring-wise, incredible. So he should have been an A player, but he might be a B tier, I've got to say. I think he's probably going to be a B tier player. He also played in the era where you just pump your shots up and take a million threes, don't you? I actually thought he maybe should have been MVP one season, though. I think I might have given him MVP the season that Durant won it. He won MVP that time, but I think I would have given him MVP. Is this the one? Where he was second behind Westbrook. I actually thought he should have won it because he was like 27.7 assists, 5 rebounds, 44%, 37 from 3, and he made 86% of his shots. Let's see. Oh, it's a Steph Curry one. Never mind. It was one that... Which one? Was it this one that was won by Westbrook? Yes. I thought he should have won over Westbrook. Look, he has better in almost every regard. It's only rebounds he has less in. He even has more assists than Westbrook. He only has less rebounds, and Westbrook literally padded his rebounds. And obviously he was better in all the other regards. It's just that Westbrook had a shit team, and so everyone's like, oh my God, he must have MVP, even though by that criteria, Kobe should have won it twice, but we didn't give it to Kobe. Piece of shit. Obviously, he still had a lot of volume in his career. It's just then he got injured a lot, unfortunately. In the playoffs, sadly, he did have a bunch of times that, no, look over here. It just goes down in the playoffs, unfortunately. Everything goes down. Look at the 3-point shot in the playoffs. In the regular season, goes down in the playoffs. He makes free throws, fair play. By the way, he was actually an underrated assist man. I always thought his assist game was very good. Rebounder, not bad. Steals, decent, but nothing crazy. I feel like this is it. This is B tier, innit? I think we're putting in B tier. Now, what's crazy is, Pippen played more. Oh, that's the other thing. He didn't play defense. 0 all defensive teams. He just didn't play one side of the ball. So, yeah, absolutely, I'm putting him in B tier. You didn't play both sides of the ball, mate. Jason Kidd, amazing point guard. One of the most fun ever to watch. And by the end of his career, hence why he won with the Mavs, did get a jump shot, actually. But he didn't used to have a jump shot. That's why they used to call him Asen with no J. They almost gave this guy the MVP instead of Iverson, by the way, when he had like 40% from the field or something. Let's have a look here. Yeah, they almost gave him it like this year, where he shot 39% from the field. They tried to give him the fucking MVP. He had 45 first place. Meanwhile, Tim Duncan was just doing a casual 50% and doing a 25-12-3 and 2.5 blocks a game. Get the fuck out my face. Jason Kidd, amazing assist, man. Assists were a lot harder to get in some of the era, like the 90s, in my opinion, because they didn't count assists the same way if you don't know. Great at assists his whole career. He really was the guy who had the eyes in the back of his head, wasn't he? Pretty good at steals too. Had good defense. Made some defensive first teams. A lot of people won't know that. Made some NBA first teams. If it wasn't Vince Carter he was with, who was good but not amazing shooting guard, if he'd have had like a T-Mark, a Kobe, he could have won some rings. Had injury problems some seasons, but then got a bunch of full seasons. Like I say, his shot wasn't that good. This field goal percentage is mainly just because he's able to do layups, etc., and get the ball back, and even then it's still not that good. I wonder if you can go down and see from what distance. Did he play in the era where the distance is shown? Oh, he did. Here's why. Field goal percentage from 0 to 3. Oh, he's amazing because they're layups. 3 to 10, just like LeBron, he becomes a bomb. He's a layup merchant. 29% from 3 to 10 feet, my dude. That's why people like Kobe are absurd. By the end, he was all right. 3-pointers, good in general. Oh, 10 to 16, he wasn't bad. 3 points, actually pretty good. He just didn't attempt enough of them, I'm guessing. Also, I did watch this guy play quite a lot. No, he did a decent amount of 3-pointers, to be fair. Since he's a two-way player, not for a whole career though. For now, I'm going to put him here, but I might have to bump him to B. He might have to be B, I'm afraid. Because he wasn't enough an offensive carry for me. I don't know. I think I'm going to put him there because of the lack of offense. He was an insane point guard, though. It just feels rough that I'm putting... No, I do think he was a better... I do think John Stockton was the better point guard. The real problem I'm going to have is when I come to this dude. I might go crazy with him. We'll see. George Gervin. Obviously, I barely watched this guy play because he was mainly playing the 70s. Here's what people don't know. In the 70s, MVP second, third, fifth, sixth. Because he's a small shooting guard and small forward, 6'7", 180 pounds, playing in an era of giants. He's mega volume scoring and he's making these percentages. Because obviously he had the beautiful finger roll, didn't he? He was a very skilled player. I mean, let's see, 6'7". Very good free throw shooter. Taking quite a lot as well. Plays for a shitter team, unfortunately. Like he was in the playoffs a few times, but they only had a couple of runs. But he's still scoring like a motherfucker. There's a load of players in the 60s, 70s and 80s that play on just not good teams, and it's only a few teams making the finals over and over and over again and being dominant, and so they all get forgotten. Alex English is another one. I probably would have added him to my list. I actually could. Oh shit, I could realise I could add him. The problem is I'm too tired today, so I'm just going to do this list of who's on here. In the future, I'll add my own people now that I've realised you can actually do it, to be fair. I didn't know you could do that. Fair enough. So I'm feeling like George Gervin's going to be pretty up there. Load of NBA first teams. No defensive teams, which is an issue. But a lot of NBA first teams. Oh, does that mean A or does it mean B? I think I'm going to put you B for now. Amazing scorer though, but that's one side of the ball. This is Bob Cousy, who's actually underrated because people think he's the small white guy when the NBA had no black guy. You don't even know what you're talking about, you fucking moron. That's just not true. You idiot. Yeah, for part of the 50s, maybe. He played right through to the 60s where Wilt Chamberlain were there. Look how many times he's all-NBA first team. He was the NBA MVP and he was top 3, top 4 times. His entire career, except the first season, he's on an NBA team, first or second. At the time, this is not bad for assists. That means he's leading the league, I believe, in assists if he has that black. Look how many times he led the league in assists. This is back when the game was way more simple in the 50s. He can score, even though, yes, his field goal percentage is shit. Let's have a look at the 50s, that stat. Field goal percentage, 50s NBA. Oh, that's why. It's way lower. In 1950, so he joined in 1950, the average field goal percentage for the league... Oh, I'm going to look at the whole... In fact, from 1951, his first season, to 1959, the average is 37.7. So actually, he's above that most of his career. So he's shooting above league percentage as a point guard. Pretty good. He's taking quite a lot of shots. You didn't know that, did you? Wait a minute, he's playing for the Boston Celtics, taking way more shots than fucking Bill Russell. Yes. Yes. Playoffs. The guy's a stud. He was their carry, and then Bill Russell came along, and then they started winning championships. Field goal, free throw percentage, very impressive on some of these years. Look how many free throws he was attempting. They must have just been found. Oh my God, look at that. 14.7 free throws attempted. There's only 3 games, admittedly. You made 13.7. What? Nanny? What a really good player. No defensive aspect, obviously. They didn't count steals back then either, so I'm probably going to put you B. I've got to say, I didn't see you play. Didn't see you play, mate. Did not see you play. Fuck, I think people said that was George Michael. We'll do him in a minute. Jokic, the problem is he obviously hasn't played long enough, has he? But he's obviously going to be one of the best players of all time. Like, he has a chance to be an S tier. He's probably going to go in A or B right now. Main issue is probably going to be his defensive game at the moment. He hasn't played enough seasons. Look, he's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seasons. First season, he's not even getting many shots. Second season, he's nothing special. Starts to get pretty good. Third season, then he's cooking. By the way, he should have taken away more shots. Field goal percent's pretty good from these seasons. Yeah, it's pretty good. That's actually very good, in fact. As a centre, it's very good. I mean, not very good, because I guess centres... He's playing a mid-range game sometimes. It's not very good, it's just good. 3-point percent isn't bad, considering how many he's taken. It can at times be good, but I wish he'd take less threes. Free throws is... I'm very impressed by 82% for a centre. Doesn't take very many, obviously. Offensive rebounds, pretty impressive. Not insane, but impressive for this era. Does rebound the ball well. Assists are obviously insane for a centre. One of the best centres ever at that. I think he should have been the MVP 4 years in a row, by the way. Steals, pretty good for a centre. Not many blocks, which is a problem. He's not that great a defensive player, unfortunately. Playoffs, he's been very good in the playoffs. In all senses. Fucking hell, bro. So I feel like for the moment, without defense, I'm putting him in B. But I think he's going to be at least A by he retires and he has a chance to crack S. He's a very good player. But George Mike and I obviously didn't watch play because I didn't watch anyone play in the fucking 1950s, did I? And he barely played. But if you don't know, he won 5 championships. And he's the main reason why. Giga carry. Remember, for the era, this is good field goal percentage. He obviously had that mic and drill that he was mega out of around the basket where you throw it in with one hand, bouncing it off the thing. Basically, the prototype for great centres. NBA first team, unsurprisingly, most of his career. We can't know about the defense angle. He's shooting above league average a bunch here. He's carrying mega rebounds. I didn't watch him play enough, so unfortunately, my dude, I'm probably going to have to just put you A tier out of respect. You'd had a very short career though, so maybe I'm going to put you B. You didn't play long enough. Yeah, it's not enough seasons. Come on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. It's not really enough, is it? And the last one you played 37 games. So because of that, I'm going to put you B tier. But it sounds like you were an A, and in your era, you were the S tier. It sounds like you should actually be like a GOAT centre candidate, but your career was just shorter. Also, they got paid fuck all back then, by the way. I don't know if they actually have his salary. I doubt it somehow, but it'd be hilarious if they did. No, they don't. They don't have dick. Leading the league in points per game. Rebounds, he led the league in. Wasn't even bad at free throws. Field goals. He had the PER, if you care about that. The win shares. Offensive win, defensive win. Ooh, defensive win shares. Okay. Fuck, I forget who was that. Who did I say that was? Is that Willis Reed? I think that's Willis Reed. Let's have a look there. I believe it was Willis Reed, right? I'm not doing this where you can see the things I searched for before. Yeah, it is Willis Reed, okay. Slightly overrated player in my opinion. Him and Clyde Frazier were obviously the great players of their team. But that game where he came out, the Willis Reed game, he made like 2 out of 5 shots or something, and he had a busted leg. It was like Clyde Frazier who carried that game. It's one of the most overrated games of all time. It's just for spirit reasons that it was cool. Didn't have a very long career, unfortunately, and had a bunch of seasons he was really injured. Made NBA second team. He made one NBA first team, and he won the MVP for that year, and made the defensive first team. But aside from that, no defensive team. So he's not going to be high on my list. MVP in 1970. Holy shit. 50% as a centre. So he was a centre and he only had 50% shooting. What the fuck is this? And only made 75, I guess 75% for a centre makes sense because he made 21 points and 13 rebounds. It's going to be because I assumed the Knicks were like the number 1 team in the NBA that season. Yeah, that's why. It's just because the Knicks won 60 games. And they're going to say he was the best player on the team, I'm guessing. But let's have a look. Was he? Was he better than Clyde Frazier? I mean, I don't think he probably was myself. I guess the rebounds is what's winning it, but I don't know. I mean, eye test for me, especially because the defense always said Clyde Frazier was the better player. It's just he was like the captain and all that shit. I don't know about that MVP, bro. Over Jerry West, who at age 31, on comparable field goal percentage from shooting guard position, is doing 31 points and 7.5 assists at 31 years old. Oh, and by the way, Kareem, 22-year-old Kareem, didn't have the greatest shooting percentage on this season, but he just did 28.8 and 14.5 rebounds and 4 assists as a fucking centre. I don't know. That just feels like that feels like a media award, doesn't it? So there's not enough defense for me. I don't count the blocks and steals, but he's only made like 1 defensive team here. It's not even an all-NBA player generally. Feels a bit overrated to me. Maybe I'm putting him C tier. Paul Pierce, you're going to get so upset when I do this because I've actually watched his career, unlike you, Fox. Paul Pierce, unironically, one of the most clutch players of all time in the NBA. Amazing bag at the mid-range. A fucking master to watch at work. This is the era when this is like scoring 30 points today, by the way. Now, admittedly, he's not making all NBA teams because unfortunately back then the Celtics were shit. Let's look at the Celtics during most of his time. So the Celtics, he joined the Celtics in 99 and played until 2013. So let's go 99. The Celtics are not even a playoff team. Then he takes them to the finals and the semis. Then they're in the first round. Then no matches at all. Then they get the big 3 and they do that little run of good shit here. And then what's funny is people will even forget. Well, no, that's when he left, wasn't it? That's around the time he left. So I think he actually did what he could. I think he was a very good player. Pretty good field goal percentage for his position. Didn't even take that many shots, by the way. It's only in this area him and Antoine Walker went crazy. Shot a lot of threes even early on. It wasn't bad. Pretty good free throw. Just a pretty good, actually a very good 3-point shooter. What are we talking about? In this era, this guy would fucking be one of the stars of the league for sure. He should have been back then. He was comparable to people like Kobe and T-Mac, and D Wade. People just didn't put him in the convo because he wasn't winning rings. Free throws, not bad. Generally 80%. Rebounds aren't crazy, but he is playing small forward and shooting guard at times. Like, they're all right. Assist games, not bad. It's not as good as maybe a Kobe. Steals aren't crazy. He wasn't some great defensive player. Blocks non-existent. It's mainly an offensive player, but I feel like I'm going to put him B tier. Part of me feels like he could be A, but again, there's not much defense. I like to count both sides of the ball generally, unless you're super absurd at offense. Ray Allen's going to be an interesting one, because in this era, like Curry, he could be the league MVP, bro. But back in his era, they just didn't play that way for the three-point shoot, although he is one of the first people to properly scale up the three, as you'll see from here. That's a properly scaled three in 2002. And he was fucking sick. Like Reggie Miller and Curry, not that sick from two, though. Just pretty good, but not insane like he is from three. Very good free throw shooter, you can imagine. Not a crazy defensive player, which is an issue. Not that great for assists either. Rebounds is pretty humdrum. Doesn't make NBA teams. I still think he was very good. This is tough. Do I put him B? I think I still put him B. I think I'll put him B for now. Some of these might drop though. Reggie Miller, it's going to be a similar story. Was obviously a very clutch player in the playoffs, but I thought was a pretty overrated 90s player overall. Would now be a true star because he did scale it up, and also his main problem is, unlike Curry can shoot off the dribble when he's fully guarded. Reggie Miller can't do that in the same way. So amazing three-point shooter, obviously. These are unbelievable numbers. Unbelievable numbers. Let's look what league average was. I'm going to put 90s. League average in the 90s was 34.7% from three. And look how many times he's doing 40% or near 40%. That is incredible. It's almost scaled up. Not quite to the 7-8s. And obviously people go now to like 10 and stuff. But pretty good for his era. Taking a lot. Doesn't take many shots in general. It's a shooting guard. Amazing free throw shooter, by the way. Rebounds, not really existent. Assists, not particularly good. He's a very one-dimensional player. That's the thing. Steals, just all right. Okay, I guess, but not that crazy because he's playing shooting guard. Blocks non-existent. That's why he's not on any teams, guys. So I think for me, Reggie Miller's a bit overrated. I'm probably going to put him C tier. Today, he'd probably be A tier, but I think I'm going to put him C tier. He played in an amazing era. Like, he scored a lot because his threes were good. And made all his free throws. I think I'm going to put him C tier. Russell Westbrook. You all know how I feel about Chuckle Westbrook. You know, there's a story that Maui on a Smurf account apparently got blocked maybe years ago on Twitter for saying something stupid to me about Westbrook when I said Westbrook was overrated or something. He's lucky that wasn't his Maui Snake account, or I would never have worked with him. That's right. Play silly games, win silly prizes. Scoring was pretty good around this era. It's okay in terms of field goal percentage. We had a lot of the, I'm going to guess loads of them are at the fucking rim. Let's go and look at that. Yep. In the era he's scoring a lot. He's just fucking layup merchant galore. From 3 to 10 feet, he is bomby as fuck. He's all right in the mid-range. His three-point game is actually, as up to the three-point line, is pretty good too. Three-point game was always incredibly overrated. He shot way too many threes in his career. Way too many. Even when he had motherfucking Kevin Durant next to him, he shot threes. Too many for my liking. Let's look at what league average in the 2010s is. League average in the 2010s was 35.6% from three. He never even shot that once. He is a below average three-point shooter, even when he has not that much volume. My dude, he has seasons where he is a fucking bomb. He is shooting you out of the game. His assist game was like pretty good, but not as insane as people make out. His rebounding was good, except till you look at offensive rebounds. It's just all getting it off the boards and telling people to get the fuck out the way who are like big guys who actually need those rebounds to get their bonuses. What a piece of shit. Steals aren't as good as you'd expect, considering he could play a lockdown defense when he felt like it. He just cared more about the offensive side of the ball. Turnovers are pretty high, but I guess he had the ball in his hand all the time. Amazingly low fouls, considering I thought he was kind of dirty as well. Just an overrated player for my money. Not as sick as people think. The idea he was the MVP, I think, is a disgrace. I've already showed you that one. Shouldn't even be in the conversation for my... Well, no. I guess you could put him in the convo, but I would have excluded him. NBA first team twice in his whole career. Second team twice, four times, 5 times. And then he made a third team twice. I'm a hater, but I'm going to say C. Didn't like his game. Thought he actually was one of the reasons his team's lost. I also thought he was a playoff choker. Look at his numbers in the playoffs, boys. That's because he played 6 games in 2010. He's shooting below league average all the time in the playoffs. Just shooting you out of the fucking game. Look how many shots he's taken, for fuck's sake. This is MVP season. He's a bomb. Not a bad free throw shooter, but just keyword not a bad. He's nowhere near the elite ones. Good assist numbers, I guess. Oh, for his actual career, though, dog shit free throw shooter for a point guard. Some of the other ones are playing in high 80s. Kobe's way better than this. I think he's an overrated player, I've got to tell you. Gary Payton, fucking stud. One of my favourites. Only got cooking in the league from about here onwards. Immediately, a few seasons in, once he started getting like properly going, he's making all defensive first teams over and over and over and over again. Right up to 2002. Still sick. Look how many defensive first teams. This guy's going to be high up, by the way. Might even be 8 here. Defensive player of the year. Could have been defensive player of the year, by the way. Like 1, 2, 3, 4 times reasonably. We're still top 5, like another 2. Making NBA second teams and third teams, because it's a very stacked league at the time. Only made it one NBA first twice. MVP conversation a few times. Points in this era, this is really hard to score like this as a point guard. This is very impressive. He's also shooting a decent percentage. 3-point percentage wasn't bad most seasons. People remember the league average was way lower back in the 90s, as I showed you earlier. Free throws, he's not quite as good as I'd want him to be. That's a problem. But he also doesn't attempt many, to be fair. So it's not like if he was such a liability, why not just foul him every time he's inside the fucking 3-point line? Rebounds are okay. He doesn't go for many defensive rebounds, understandably. And in this era, the rebounds go to the power forwards and the fucking centers. Steals are very good. Assists pretty good in this era. Just an all-round player. Pretty good playoff player too, by the way. Very good numbers in the playoffs. I think Gary Payton's probably going to have to go B. He had defense and scoring, but I can't quite put him A. He had bad free throws. Let me have a look how many playoff games. He had some good playoff runs. I feel like I have to put him B, though. Because there's some very good players in B, too. He could have been an A player, though. He was a very good player. Who did we say that was before? Who played for the Bullets? Who did we say that was? I forget who that player is. Who was on the Washington Bullets for the... Because it's not Wes Unseld, obviously. Who the fuck is that? Oh, yeah, Elvin Hayes. There you go. That guy in chat's right. So Elvin Hayes... Obviously a player I didn't watch play much. The Big E. 6'9", 235 pounds. Pretty fucking good career. Look at the scoring. MVP race a few times. Played in the NBA his entire career. Took a lot of shots. Not that crazy. I mean, he's a power forward, to be fair. He's only centering these years. That's okay for a power forward, I guess. Free throws are more like a centre, like you'd imagine. Rebounds are pretty fucking good though, especially offensive rebounds are very impressive. Assist game's not that crazy. Steal game's block game's pretty good. All NBA a few times, first team, second teams, couple of defensive teams. Playoffs, really good rebounding numbers, very good scoring, good blocks, pretty good offensive, very good offensive rebound numbers. Not very good free throw shooter, very good, pretty good. Nah, all right. It's just all right. I didn't watch him play, so I'm probably going to say B. Clyde Frazier, I just told you before. I actually think an underrated player probably. He's a two-way player. MVP candidate once in a reasonable era. NBA first team a few times. NBA second team a few times. Defensive team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row. That is very impressive. Scoring at a very good clip. Assist game's good. Rebounding is pretty good for a point guard. Those are pretty good numbers. Pretty good free throw shooter. Not crazy. Field goal good. Playoff performer. Could have won a few more rings potentially. Could also have won no rings. I think probably an underrated player. Two-way player. Was his career long enough though? Sort of like 8 seasons as really good two-way player. That could put you in B. It could put you in like low A. I'm going to think about that one for a little bit. I'll put you in B, I think, for now. Dominique Wilkins is incredibly underrated. Probably like the Carmelo Anthony of his era. Sick scorer. Massive volume. Really good numbers. Maybe a little bit of a playoff choke like Melo. A little bit, although Melo was better towards the end of his career. Insane numbers. Never even made a conference finals, believe it or not. But that's because his team sometimes weren't good enough, in my opinion. Let's go look at Atlanta. He played from 83 through to 93. Let's go look at Atlanta in that era. 83. They had a couple of good seasons. Like, this is a very good one. 57 wins. That was after him. Well, in that case, he only had one really good season, basically. And they lost in this conference semi-finals. This is going to be the one that he lost to the fucking Celtics. Who can blame him for that? Oh, no. Pistons. When Pistons on the come up. Isaiah's a monster. He had a bad series. There you go. Told you a little bit of a playoff choker sometimes. An amazing regular season player, though. Nothing crazy, like no defensive teams you'll notice. Steals are all right. Assist game, not crazy. Rebounds isn't bad, small forward. Very good offensive rebounds because he's super athletic. Makes his free throws. Good shooter. I wonder if actually it'll show me where he was from, how many feet he was shooting from. I don't think so, unfortunately, because I believe they only started that in the 90s. Yeah, there you go. Never mind that. Had a 57-point game. Might even be in this one against Michael Jordan. No, it was against the Nets. Against Jordan. Oh, he had a 57-point game against Michael Jordan. Did you not know about that? He had 57 points. Michael Jordan had 41 points. They didn't tell you about that one, did they? He actually did quite well against Michael Jordan head-to-head, by the way. They had some really great duels. Look how many fucking monster games this guy had. And look at the field goal percentage in some of them. What a beast. What a beast. The problem, and he's got a lot of volume in his regular career, is the playoffs and the lack of defense. His numbers aren't as good in the playoffs, you'll notice. Assist game, not particularly impressive in the playoffs either. That means I probably have to put you... Maybe B. Maybe B. Could put you C too for being a bit of a choker though. I'll think about that one at the end. Wes Unseld, I didn't watch play very much. 6'7", 245 pounds, but a centre. So, you know, he must have been pretty good if he was 6'7". Didn't have an insanely long career. Doesn't score fucking any points. What are we talking about? What? There's people in the 60s scoring 30 points, boys. He's the MVP. How the fuck was the MVP with 13.8 points on 47%? What the fuck? I'm going to guess they just led the NBA that season. This seems criminal. They just won the most games, that's it. Let me just go back and show you that again. Watch how abusive this is. 1968 season. Wilt Chamberlain averages 21.1 points. Oscar Robertson doing a triple-double again, I imagine. He got it mainly for the rebounds, it looks like, this season, because he was a rookie and he did it. That seems overrated as fuck. Then again, they had Willis Reed second, so... Okay. Okie dokie. Washed Bill Russell. With 9.9 points a game in the 60s. Bill Russell at 34 is fourth in MVP votes, getting 11 first place. Holy shit. Holy shit. Right, obviously his rebound game is insane, isn't it? That's what he's mainly here for. But he doesn't particularly have the blocks. What a fucking overrated player. I think he's going to go C. He might even be a D. I don't know. Let me think about that. Carmelo, I'm going to hurt so many feelings here because I'm going off body of work, aren't I? I think he's a pretty good player. Amazing scorer. Didn't make many All-NBA teams because he didn't play much defense and people perceived him to be greedy and selfish and blah, 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 blah. Okay. 6 scorer, though. Let's see. Played in the 2010s. Sometimes good three-point shooter. Generally made his free throws. 81%. Should be credited for that as a small forward, power forward. Decent offensive rebounding numbers. Nothing crazy for rebounding. Not bad for your position in terms of assists. Steals aren't that crazy. Just didn't really play defense is the problem. Did have some very good years in the playoffs. Just the problem is his numbers fall off and he's a little bit of a choker. I feel like he's a B player for me. Dwight Howard is obviously going to be mainly off defense since he was like Defensive Player of the Year a bunch of times. What was it, 3 years in a row? 3 in a row. MVP candidate as a result. Never took enough shots. Took way too few shots in his career, considering his field goal percentage, because the problem is he didn't really have a post game. That's a flaw, I'm afraid. Not a very good free throw shooter either. Very good rebounder. Good offensive, very good rebounder, offensive rebounder. Pretty good at blocks too, while he still cared. Defensive first team a bunch of times. Defensive second team a few times. It's a hard one. Maybe B for him as well. Who did we say that was? Bob McAdoo, I believe, right? Let's check that. Bob McAdoo. Yes, that's Bob McAdoo. Okay. $13-year career. Insane scorer. MVP. Could have been MVP 3 years in a row, by the way. Centre. Not the craziest centre numbers in terms of field goal percentage. Very good offensive rebounding numbers. Good rebounding numbers in general. Nothing crazy for centres, though. Decent assists. Blocks. Very good sometimes. Not as great later on. The real problem is, if you go and look at number of games played, he just doesn't play enough games a lot of his career. Obviously won a ring with the Lakers. Let's just go look at that one a second. Let's go to the finals. That Magic Johnson won the MVP. Bob McAdoo, 16 points on 56%. Respect. Only 5 rebounds, though, but to be fair, it was 30. Obviously, didn't have a long enough career overall in terms of games. Let's have a look here. Nothing crazy about these numbers, but they're decent. Not bad free throws. I believe he wasn't a centre in the... Let me have a look how tall he was. He's 6'9" still. These are very good numbers at free throw for a centre, I've got to say. Where am I putting this guy? Obviously, he's a good scorer. See, he's like there or there. Maybe there for now. I might have too many B players. I might have to put some people down. McGrady. T-Mac, one of my favourites. Wasn't totally his fault he didn't make it through a bunch of the first rounds. He had some carry performances. It's just that his teams were kind of a bit lackluster. They were regular season teams. If anything, he carried them hard in the regular seasons. But later on with the Rockets, then he was actually also one shit in the bed, although Yao Ming also got injured a lot. Had some seasons he was insane. He was an MVP candidate. He made some NBA first team, second team, third. He didn't play that much defense, which was a bit of an issue for me. Not even close to a defensive team. Was a beast scorer, though. Could be good from 3 points sometimes. It's just his overall career as a top player is not that many years. It's sort of like this period, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say like 8-year span, he's very good. In the playoffs, yeah, he was beasting. His numbers are fine, except these 2 times. Kind of shit the bed that time, those 2 times. 3-point, he's shit in the bed a bunch of times, unfortunately. Free throws, 75% for the playoffs. I don't know about that, my dude. That's not really good enough, is it? Field goal, free throws in general is an issue. I think I'm going to put him C tier. His 8-year span was pretty sick. No, he doesn't play defense, though. That's the problem. He doesn't play defense. Anthony Davis, I was a big fan of, especially at the Pelicans. And I think he's been underrated by stupid LeBron fans recently and blamed every fucking time they lose. Idiots. Hasn't had a long enough career yet, but is a fucking beast. Look at the scoring. Field goal percentage is good, considering he doesn't do loads of shots. Let's go look at the rim, because he's going to have it in his era. Like, what percentage of his shots by distance? 0 to 3, not even, most years only like a third of his shots. Let's go and look at like, what am I doing here? Let's go and look at like Shaq or someone, right? Some other centre. He's supposed to be a centre, remember? Everyone's like, Shaq's like, get 30 and 20. Like, shut the fuck up. Let's go have a look where Shaq was shooting from. Right. Shaq's percentage of 2-point shots by distance. Look how many. He's doing like half his shots from 0 to 3. Anthony Davis does like a third. And then he shoots like a fifth sometimes from 3 to 10. He does way more than you'd expect. Look, Shaq doesn't even shoot from this range. 0 point something percent. Anthony Davis, 17%, 16%, 15%. His percentage is insane, by the way. Obviously, around the rim, he's fucking unbelievable. He doesn't take enough shots, obviously. 70%. 3 to 10, he shoots like a fucking small forward. And then 10 to 16, there is no big man who shoots like this, my dude. This is fucking insane. 16 to 30, he can still be at this range. 3-point isn't even that bad, even though I don't think he should ever shoot 3-pointers. Underrated player, in my opinion. Had a 59-point game, 26 rebound game. Mega scorer. Pretty good in blocks. Very good in blocks. Okay steals. Okay assists, sometimes pretty good. Rebounding, pretty good mostly. Good offensive rebounding. Field goal percentage. Free throw shooting. He's 79% free throw shooter. Shall I show you something in a second? He's the centre, remember, guys. Remember ye old LeBron Jamesy? Ye old LeBron Jamesy, small forward, 73% free throw shooting, 79% for Anthony Davis. LeBron attempted 7.6, Anthony Davis attempted 7. LeBron in certain ways is a bit bomby. That's why I love the fact you guys call him the GOAT. Holy shit. This guy also was Defensive Player of the Year candidate and could have won it some of these seasons. Maybe should have won it in 2020. Third, fourth. Defensive second team. He didn't even make a defensive team, despite being 9th on the list. Okay. Defensive first team, defensive first team, defensive first team, NBA first team, NBA first team, NBA first team, third for MVP candidate there, 5th over there. He was a bit too injured as part of the problem. Look how he's barely playing 80 games. He's barely playing 70. He's only had 3 seasons he played 70 games. That's a problem. But his game was sick. So I think that angle's probably going to make him be C for me. Oh, I don't know about that though. I'm going to put him B. At the same time, he didn't play that many. Is that enough? Is that enough? That's hard. He's a really hard one. He could go down for me. There's only 2 left. Bill Walton. Just didn't play enough seasons, so he's probably going to end up as a B or a C. That's probably have to be a C, even though he had a sick career for the limited times he did play. Look, he only played 60 games 3 seasons. He only played 50 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. Realistically, we're talking about like not many seasons overall, boys, unfortunately, because of injury from very early on. Look, he was never a massive scorer because he took fuck all shots. He had good field goal percentage, but he wasn't some monster like that. He was a passing guy. His assists are really good for a centre, as you can imagine. Very good passer. Steals aren't bad sometimes. Blocks are good when he's healthy. Free throw percentage, not very good, but again, he's a centre. Playoffs. Barely had any playoffs, did he? So unfortunately, potential's enormous, but I'm going to have to put him C or D. I think C overall because he was a 2-way player. And he was an MVP and could have been an MVP twice, by the way. So could won the MVP in 77. Look, Kareem, I'm going to guess. Yeah, understandably. I'm going to guess Portland had like an insane amount of wins. I'm going to guess if we go and look. No, not really. They were like tied for 4th in wins. I think he's going to go C. Right. Nate Tiny Archibald. You know what? Maybe I'll say fuck it at the end, even though I didn't start like this, and just add the Alex English and the people I think should have been added. Was that actually Nate Thurman? I don't think so. Wasn't he like a giant muscle-bound guy? Yeah, it's a different guy altogether. Right, it's Nate Tiny Archibald, isn't it? Did he really make like a top? Did he make the all? Did he make top 75, really? Holy shit, he was ranked as the 67th greatest player in NBA history. All right, let's look why. Not familiar, mate. I watched his career. Right, he has 1 cracked out season here. He's a point guard. Ooh, see, right, he's a point. Look at his career, though. He's taking fuck all shots later on. Free throws are good. Assist game's good, but he's not playing as much. Steals, not that crazy. There's no defense. He's on some All-NBA teams a few times. Could have won the MVP. Playoffs. Won a ring with the Celtics in 81. Let's have a look at that one there. Let's go and look in the finals. Isn't this the one where like Cedric Maxwell wins the... Yes. He only shot 36%. Yeah, this feels a bit whack that this guy... Is this guy really a top 70 player of all time? I'm going to show you... He's top 67th, they said. I didn't watch him play, but it doesn't feel like he's done enough. Like, yeah, he's a beast some of these years, but it's early on, and even then his percentage not that crazy. I don't know about that. That feels like a C. I'm going to add something, though, so wait there a sec while we just go to the big head. I can show you the list at the moment. I'm actually going to look on the top 75 myself because they didn't put everyone on. Robert Parrish feels like a reach. I'll have a look quickly. Like, I think he was a little bit overrated for me. Let's have a look. See what I mean? I don't know if that lets you make it. He was never the best player on his team. Might have been on these teams, I don't know, but he was never the best player on the Celtics when I watched him. He just got there via insane longevity, basically. See what I mean? His numbers go way down in the playoffs. Yeah, he was just a good player, in my opinion, who had sick passes passing to him. Very good rebounds, good blocks early on. Offensive rebounds. I don't know that Robert Parrish really deserves to be there. I'm not sure on that one, though. Maybe I'll add him anyway. Maybe we'll add him too. So we're going to go Alex English, who's hella underrated. He's better than a bunch of these players. Mega scorer, by the way. Beautiful game. I know who. I know we've missed one. I know one I think we've missed. I'm going to quickly go back. Right, so we're going to go Alex English first. Problem is he played on the fucking Nuggets where no one cares. So NBA second team a few times. Look at this scoring though. If you don't know, Alex English scored the most points in the 1980s. Because he's taking tons, but he's making tons. Look at this from small forward. Look at his field goal percentage. Free throw percentage is very good. That's what LeBron shoots. Wait a minute. Is that what I had LeBron as a minute ago? I think it was that, wasn't it? My mistake. He shoots 10 points better than LeBron. Your GOAT. Mega free throw shooter in that case for a small forward. Assists are pretty good. Rebounds are pretty good. Not crazy, but good for a small forward. Just watch this guy and Bernard King on YouTube. Incredible. I actually watched them play in the 80s as well. Even was very good in the playoffs. Only had a few runs, but it's not his fault. Look at this. Look at this. What's he doing wrong? Only got super far once. Beat the Jazz, lost to the Lakers. Let's have a look at against the Lakers. 51%, 87% from three. Averages 30, 6.5 rebounds and 4.3 assists. Makes 47 field goals. Byron Scott actually has the most for the Lakers. Kareem only has 42. Magic Johnson has 23. This guy's hella underrated. He should both have been a top 50 player and a top 75 player. He's snubbed on both. I think it's disgraceful, personally. So for me, he wasn't really much of a defensive player, but he's a mega scorer. I think for me, I'm actually going to put him B tier. Then we're going to Kevin McHale. Look, he gets slightly overrated by Celtics fans, but he was a very good player and could have been a star and a carry on his own. NBA first team once, NBA defensive team twice, defensive team second, or three times, and three times it looks like defensive second. So actually he had decent defense because look, he has some all right blocks. Assist game's not that good. Rebounding's good. Decent offensive rebound, good offensive rebounding. Not a bad free throw shooter, better than fucking LeBron. Even when taking a similar amount, he's way better that season. Very good field goal percentage. Kevin McHale is a B player. Is he a B or a C? No, he had quite a long career all in all. I think he's a B player. I think he's a B player when I look at who's in there. Pete Maravich. Didn't play long enough, we already know that, but he did have some insane numbers. Remember, there's no three-point line when he first came in the league. So when he was able to shoot threes, he barely shot it. He was godlike. His shooting in general is very good, and he shoots a lot. Free throw shooting's pretty good. Not insane, pretty good. Rebounding's not that good, you imagine. Assist game's pretty good. Amazing scorer. NBA first team, third in MVP voting, NBA second team. Didn't really play that long though, because look, we've only got 5 seasons with 70 games, 7 seasons with 60 games. That's the problem. That's what's going to kill you dead there, mate. That's probably putting you in C tier. Does anyone deserve to go D? We'll see. Actually, some of these probably will do, so yeah, don't worry about that. Then we're going Robert Parrish. I'm not going to add too many more. I could have added more. Right, obviously, field goal percentage is very good, but he doesn't shoot that much. He's mainly playing along with other great players in the Celtics. Good scoring. Blocks aren't as good as you'd want it to be. Not a defensive player in that sense. Rebounding's good. Offensive rebounding's good. Not bad free throw shooting for a centre. All this shooting. It was never close to the bus driver, though. So I'm going to put him D. Dennis Rodman, he might be a D. Could be C, though, because his defensive game was fucking insane. I forgot to even include these parts here and read out what they have here. 7-time rebound champion. It's unbelievable for a 6'7" player. 2-time All-NBA. 8-time All-Defense. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously doesn't score. Amazing rebounder. Unbelievable offensive rebounder. Even got decent assists compared to where he's playing. Shit at free throws. Good field goal percentage because he mainly just shoots when he's open or he rebounds it and scores. That feels like maybe C because of the defensive side of the ball. Is that good enough to get him into B though? Let's see. I don't know. Let me think. Led the league in free throw percentage, but field goal, but who cares about that? That's a lot of rebounds to get. A lot of offensive rebounds. I think I'm going to go crazy. No, I can't really put him in B without an offensive game. No, he doesn't have an offensive game. I can't do that. I think C's the best I can do there, mate. C's the best I can do. Ben Wallace is probably going to be a similar story. He was like, what, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year? 2-time rebound champion, 6-time All-Defensive, 5-time All-NBA, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, 1-time block champion, 6'9". Difference is Dennis Rodman was shorter. Defensive first team a whole bunch of times. Could have been Defensive Player of the Year in 2004 when it was won by Metta World Peace. Metta World Peace also could have won more. Ooh, wait a minute. Metta World Peace. Because Metta World Peace I thought was a fucking sick defensive player. Did score a lot too. I can't add a million fucking people. It's going too far already. This video is going to be hours fucking long. Very good rebounder, an offensive rebounder. Pretty good with blocks in his prime. Obviously takes fuck all offense. I think we'll give you C as well. Mutombo, another mainly defensive player. Played a bazillion years. Might have even lied about how old he was. Obviously starts having injury problems around here, but still has a bunch of seasons he gets it in. He could score, but he barely took any fucking shots. See, there's no offensive game. Rebounding's very good. Offensive rebounding, very good. Blocks are insane. Is that a C player as well? Because I like defense. Damian Lillard, there's only 3 to go, and then I've got to fucking end this video before I actually end something else. Damian Lillard, obviously amazing scorer. Still got a few years left in his career. Made some NBA first and second teams. Had some decent MVP voting, apparently. Field goal percentage is good for a point guard. Not that crazy on assists, but pretty good from this era. Steals aren't what I'd like it to be, so the defense isn't there. Very good free throw shooter. Very good three-point shooter, considering he scaled it right to the fucking max. So very good offensive player. That feels like a C player. Feels like a C. Manu Ginobili, all-round player. Long career, but you can see here, didn't have that many seasons with 70 games, actually. Wasn't an insane scorer. Not making defensive teams, although he's not really a defensive player. Steals, whatever. Assists, good. Just an all-round player. 44%. Very good from three-point. Good from free throw. I think he probably has to be there because he wasn't the bus driver. It could have been C. I'm not sure. I think D for that. Last one is who? Oh, Bernard King. It's injury that stopped Bernard King being a greater player, by the way. This guy's an amazing scorer. Fucking beast. This guy was doing back-to-back 50s and shit. Look at the scoring. Making NBA teams. Look at the percentages. He's playing small forward. This is extremely impressive shit. Free throws, he's not bad. Assist game, nothing crazy. Rebounds, good. Not as crazy offensively. A really good scorer. Maybe put him C tier. There we go. That's my list. This video and the others on my channel were supported by the people on my side channel Patreon. Do you want to choose a topic I focus on next? Maybe ask a question in my regular video AMA? Do you want teasers? Find out who the upcoming guests are for Thor Inquiry interviews? Do you want to take part in a never to be released, exclusively recorded 1 hour discussion between me and you, which actually you could also use for consulting or some sort of coaching if you'd like? Well, if so, heed this call to action and join Thor Inside today, where In the description box, there's a Patreon link.